It's the final weekend of the 2010 regular season, and this is the middle game of the final series, the Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers. Reds gunning for their 90th win of the year, but still trying to determine where they will go in the postseason. Reds and the Brewers coming up on Fox Sports Ohio. Hi and a pleasant good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Couch, along with Chris Welsh. Welcome to Reds Baseball here at Great American Ballpark. Chris, we talk about where this team will go in the postseason, and one of the guys that's still to be determined as to whether he will be on this team or not when they go to the postseason is a fellow going to the mound today, Homer Bailey.
Well, Jim, first, nice to work with you again. It's been a while, but I'm glad you're back in the booth. And Homer Bailey's a guy that really has some personal pressure, I guess, if he wants to put it on himself. He's pitched very well his last couple of times out, once against the Milwaukee Brewers, once against the San Diego Padres his last two starts. But if you're looking at it from Homer's perspective, he's thinking maybe if I pitch really well today, I'll be on that postseason roster, and I maybe even be one of those three pitchers that's going to get the starts there against the Philadelphia Phillies if the Reds play against the Phillies. But his last two starts, you see, September 20th, that was against the Milwaukee Brewers and Chris Capuano. Actually, same matchup we have this afternoon. And Sunday, the last one he had was on the road against the Padres. Both very good ball clubs that he pitched against, and both wins for the Reds. Although Homer didn't get the wins in both those ball games, he's throwing the ball really well right now. And
you have to wonder, if he doesn't start in the postseason, will he be on the roster, be able to work out of the pen?
Well, they like his stuff. I mean, the average fastball for Homer Bailey is around 93, 94 miles an hour. So I think he's got an odds-on favorite to be in that postseason roster one way or another.
Well, the Reds gunning for their 90th win of the year. Meanwhile, a couple of stalwarts in the outfield. Gomes in one corner, Bruce in the other. We'll come back and take a look at them after this.
And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Today's Reds broadcast on Fox Sports Ohio is presented in beautiful high definition, courtesy of H.H. Gregg. Let's take a look now at today's weather for this 161st game of the year. Here's Jeff Creighton.
Baseball in October in Cincinnati. Temperatures are pleasant, good for those on the field, all right for those in the stands. We'll see a little bit of shower activity today. 64 that first pitch. Seventh inning, we're into 61. Upper 50s by that final out with a sprinkle or a shower possible. Let's keep it covered, Reds.
Johnny Gomes is the left fielder, Jay Bruce the right fielder, Chris. And early on in this season, we didn't know for sure if they'd be out there every day.
Well, Johnny Gomes was hopeful that he would be out there every day, and he's played a whole lot more this year than he has last year, nearly twice as many at-bats, and his raw numbers will show it. He's up to 85 runs batted in this year for Johnny Gomes, having a big year. Jay Bruce, boy, the better and better he has gotten as later into the season he has gotten as well. You know, he broke his wrist last July, and it seemed like he was hampered early in the year with that wrist problem. Lately, though, he's been hitting a lot of home runs. In fact, 5 home runs in his last 21 plate appearance against left-handers. So you may see that Jay Bruce now is trying to establish himself as an everyday right fielder, hitting left-handed against everybody, lefties and righties. And Johnny Gomes, well, the typical kind of numbers you see for Johnny Gomes in a regular year, if you give him 500 at-bats, you're looking at him right there. Both very important pieces of this ball club.
Well, the Reds are in the playoffs, but who they will play, we still do not know. We'll come back with more from Great American Ballpark in a moment. "33 straight years." By Just for Men, for mustache and beard. Keep your edge. And by Skyline Chili. Whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Reds have taken the field here at Great American Ballpark. The Brewers and the Reds, middle game of this series. It is somewhat overcast at the ballpark today, but if there is rain, it's very much later on tonight. Here's what Ken Maka throws out there. Brewers starting lineup brought to you by Cincinnati Bell, Weeks, Hart, and then the very hot-hitting Ryan Braun. Prince Fielder in the middle of that lineup with Casey McGee and Lorenzo Cain. And the bottom three, Jonathan LaCroix, Alcides Escobar, and the left-hander, Chris Capuano. Homer Bailey on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds, and like his counterpart today, Chris Welsh, Chris Capuano, both throwing the ball well here late in the year.
Well, this is a matchup that happened while the Reds were on their last road trip. When they went through Milwaukee, it was a matchup of Capuano and Homer Bailey. Bailey's fastball, very good. 93 miles an hour is where he averages it. He'll throw a slider, curveball, and a split finger as his off-speed pitch. And the Reds have won a lot in his last 9 starts. 8 of the last 9 times Homer's towed the rubber, the Reds have come away with a win.
Well, we're ready to go. Ricky Weeks settles into the box, and Homer Bailey delivers the first pitch of this afternoon's game. That's in there for a called strike. Bailey gunning for his 5th win of the year, and this is 19th start against a fellow, at least to get things going, Ricky Weeks. It really has handled him well throughout his career. 7 out of 13. He'll be followed by Corey Hart and Ryan Braun. This is a homegrown Milwaukee lineup, isn't it? You look at their lineup: Weeks, Hart, Braun, Fielder, Kane, all coming up through the Milwaukee organization. Weeks at .269 with 29 homers and 83 RBIs. Those are far and away career highs for him in the power department. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Now, we've said it before, Ricky Weeks, a very good fastball hitter. You know, he almost challenges you as a pitcher to try to throw him a fastball upstairs. He holds his hands very low as he gets it started, but then as that pitcher is about to get to his balance point, he'll raise those hands up around shoulder level. But he loves to feed off that number 1, which is the fastball.
Hard hit, but foul out of play. He hit his 29th home run of the year last night. It was a 1-out 6th inning home run. Is what you're talking about, Chris.
You know, not a lot of guys want to start down there because but he very slowly brings it back. He doesn't have a hitch in his swing at all, but he's got very strong wrists and arms, and he's able to whip that bat through there and catch up with a lot of fastballs.
Now he's run the count full as the leadoff man for Milwaukee. Milwaukee team will finish under 500 this year. They start today at 77 wins and 83 losses. It was 2 years ago, Chris, remember, when they were in the position late in the season like this, battling for the National League Central or the wild card. It had been a long time since they'd gotten into the postseason, and they were able to get in that year. But since then, a couple of sub-500 seasons.
Well, you know, their offense has always been there. Even this year, they're 4th in runs scored. So they're a team that puts a lot of runs on the board. But what has happened is that their pitching essentially evaporated this year. Years ago, when they were in the playoff hunt, they had Ben Sheets. They went out and signed CC Sabathia. They really bolstered their pitching staff. And they thought that Randy Wolf would be that guy this year, although he didn't have anywhere near the kind of first half that they hoped he had. He's pitching very well here in the second half. But their eyes are on next year. The pitcher they ran out there last night, and Mark Rogers, very good-looking youngster.
Swing and a miss, and down goes Ricky Weeks on strikes. He strikes out for the 182nd time in 2010. Here's how the Reds look now defensively as our forward defensive look. Gomes, Stubbs, Bruce, that figures to be the outfield when the Reds get into the postseason. Cairo at third, Cabrera, Phillips, and Yonder Alonso getting only his 3rd start of the year. And the battery of Bailey and Ryan Hannigan. Interesting, since the Reds clinched on Tuesday night with that Bruce home run, Dusty Baker has given this guy a rest, that guy a rest. Today, it's Scott Rowland. The last 3 days, it's been Orlando Cabrera. Here's Yonder giving Joey Votto his first real break of the week. On an off-speed pitch there, has Hart in the hole, 0-2. Hart needed the extra innings last night. He picked up a leadoff 11th inning single, continuing his hitting streak, which sits now at 16 games. Check swing into the mid of Hannigan, and a strikeout.
Well, strikeouts were wild here at Great American Ballpark last night. They've started off right where they left off. In that 11-inning loss that the Reds had last night, they struck out, 17 times last night? And I think the Brewers struck out something like 11 times. So there have been a lot of punch-outs, a lot of cool breeze blowing around their ballpark last couple of days.
On a somewhat cool night last night. The 2 out, nobody on. Homer looking to have a 1-2-3 first, and deals now with Ryan Braun and a swing and a miss.
Hey, what's really helped Homer this year is that his ability to figure out on a certain day which of his breaking pitches is going to be his go-to pitch. A lot of pitchers will go out there with a curveball and a slider on the same day, but what happens is that usually only one of those pitches becomes the dominant breaking ball. And if you recognize that early on as a pitcher, you go with that one, and it looks like early on for Homer today, it is that slider.
Well, Homer spent all that time this season on the disabled list with the right shoulder fatigue, but since he's come back, 9 starts since his return, an ERA of right around 3.7. Done a pretty good job, particularly as we alluded to in the pregame. His last 2 starts have been very good ones. Ryan Braun hitless in the game last night. Comes in 9th in the league in hitting at .305.
Braun had a couple of balls last night, very sharp, did not have much to show for it. But he's a guy that when you look at the body of work he's done in his short major league career, it's just amazing the kind of names that you have to place him with. As far as home run potential, and you stand up next to Ryan Braun, he's not an especially big guy, doesn't have muscles bulging out of his uniform, just a very quick bat and strong wrists.
Makes that one high. 2 balls, 2 strikes. You mentioned that these 2 fellas, Capuano on the Brewers side, their starter, and Homer Bailey, matched up on the 20th 2 weeks ago. Reds won that game 5-2. But both pitchers, Capuano and Bailey, threw very well. In fact, almost had identical numbers in that game. And now the count runs full.
Well, Homer's featuring both of his breaking balls in this at-bat to Ryan Braun. The curveball, if you're watching their little Fox box at the top of the screen, will show you somewhere in the 70s, 75, 76, 77 miles an hour. The slider will be somewhere around 83 or 84.
Fastball there, and he gets him on strikes, and 3 batters, 3 strikeouts. We'll take a look at that on our way out. 1/2 inning complete here at Great American Ballpark. Reds and the Brewers, no score. This series, the Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers. Here's a look at our Cincinnati Reds starting lineup for tonight's game. This is the Brewer lineup, but we just saw the top 3 of, and now for Dusty Baker's club in this game, you see Drew Stubbs. He'll be in the leadoff spot. He was there early this year, then went down to the number 7 hole, back up there today. Stubbs, Cabrera, Phillips in the number 3 spot, position he's used to hitting in the past, not this year, but in the past. Gomes, Bruce, and Cairo. And then the bottom three are Alonso, Hannigan, and Homer Bailey. Here's the left-hander, 32-year-old Chris Capuano. Chris, you guys were talking last night about Mark Rogers and all the injury situations that he went through, missing 2 years. Same could be said of this guy, Capuano.
Yeah, back-to-back nights the Reds will face, or back-to-back games anyway, the Reds will face a pitcher that has had not one but two major arm surgeries. Last night's starter had two shoulder surgeries. Mark Rogers, Capuano, has had two elbow surgeries. He's got natural cut on all of his pitches. He'll use all of his pitches, and Capuano, it's one of these situations where he wants to get back. He's making his 24th start of the year. He missed the entire year last year after recovering from Tommy John surgery, and he hopes to be one of the anchors in this rotation as they go forward into 2011.
This is a guy 5 years ago who was an 18-game winner, and 4 years ago was a National League All-Star. Hard to center by Stubbs, but playable. Back goes Kane, and he makes the catch for the out. As we take a look at our forward defensive look at this Milwaukee Brewer club under the direction of Ken Maka. They'll line up Braun, Kane, Hart in the outfield. Infield of McGee, Escobar, Weeks, and Fielder. And their catcher is Jonathan Lucroy, who started the year at AA, took the place of Jeff Zahn, who went on the disabled list with a right shoulder injury and been out for the year. And Lucroy has come up here and done a pretty good job for them. And Chris Capuano, who actually was a non-roster invitee this year to spring training for Milwaukee, and actually began the year then in A-ball. So he's had a long route back. Cabrera starting at shortstop after the clinch on Tuesday. He did not start Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but is back in there today. And Dusty said he'll figures to get the start tomorrow and play about half the game. He said, I hate to look at these things as spring training type games, but in a way I'm trying to keep everybody sharp.
Well, the good news is that Dusty has been through this before, so he knows what he's doing. He has experience to call on as far as trying to get his team pepped up, together, focused, rested, sharp, all of those things that seem to be conflicting a little bit. You know, when you use words like stay sharp and stay strong and stay focused all at the same time, well, you know, you can overuse a guy to the point where he begins to get tired. So, but Dusty's had that experience, and you got to figure it's going to play in the Reds' favor.
Foul ball to third. Casey McGee fields that ball. And as you go into action today, Saturday, October the 2nd, 161st game of the year, there are still three possibilities where the Reds could end up. The most likely still is Philadelphia, but they still could be in San Francisco. They still could end up going out to San Diego, depending on how things play out.
And, of course, the Reds have no control over any of that right now. By losing last night, they guarantee that they will be playing on the road.
Fair ball into the corner for Cabrera. On gets that ball back in. 33rd double of the year for Orlando Cabrera. That game at 4:10 today. We were talking about the San Diego-San Francisco game. San Diego a winner last night. Tim Stauffer against Barry Zito in that contest. San Francisco needs one win of the three to clinch the West. And Atlanta, they need a victory or a couple of San Diego losses. They have a clinching number for the wild card, and to get Bobby Cox back into the playoffs in his final season as a manager of that Braves team, a magic number of 2 to clinch the West. And it all could be decided today if Atlanta can win against Philadelphia and San Francisco defeats San Diego, or it could all go all the way to Tuesday. Wouldn't that be something?
With teams that end up with identical records, and they have a play-in game on Monday and then another play-in game on Tuesday.
Yeah, you heard Walt Jocketty talking with Jim Day about that during the pregame, and he said, hey, they've done it before. He did it when he was with Oakland. They had to sit on a plane and wait to see where they were headed. Up the middle for Phillips. Mark Berry will hold the runner coming to third. Cabrera, as the throw comes in from Kane. Back-to-back sharply hit balls by Cabrera and Phillips. Reds didn't get a hit yesterday until the 5th, and 2 in the 1st today.
Now that's a changeup right there that Chris Capuano tries to feather down on the outside part of the plate. But look at Brandon Phillips just go right down there and get that ball. And he lines it up the middle. Cabrera had a good jump off second base, but they wanted to hold him right here. And this throw, as it turns out, comes on and it hits the pitcher's mound. A lot of third base coaches will tell you, anytime there's a base hit into center field, they're going to send that runner, because often when that center fielder throws a low throw, he's got to throw it over that pitcher's mound, and sometimes it'll hit the mound and go wild. That's what happened right there, but Reds have him on the corners.
So here's Johnny Gomes, a career best 85 runs batted in for him this season. Go along with his 18 home run balls. He's in the cleanup spot today with Scott Rowland out of the lineup. Other than Rowland, he's been used the second most this year in the cleanup spot, and he's just done a terrific job with runners in scoring position.
Of course, that cleanup spot belonged to Brandon Phillips the last couple of years. You talk about a guy that's been all over the place in this lineup. Phillips has led off. He's been in the number 2 hole. Here he is batting number 3 today.
Do you see Phillips, Chris, back in the number 1 spot come postseason play?
I actually see him probably not unless Drew Stubbs all of a sudden gets hurt, or I think the way that Drew Stubbs has come on lately, that's one thing that the Dusty Baker would love to have, is him in the leadoff spot, and maybe Phillips batting second.
Yeah, it was Stubbs after all, the first 6 weeks of the season that they had up there, but moved him down because he wasn't producing.
And then they put Cabrera up in the leadoff spot. He did okay for a while, then didn't produce, and then they put Brandon Phillips in the leadoff spot. So it's been kind of a rotating door of you open it up and find out who's leading off today.
Dusty has made the point on any number of occasions that, hey, nothing is etched in stone, maybe other than number 3 and Joey Votto. We go with what's working at the time.
Johnny trying to tell himself, don't chase that slow stuff that Capuano's trying to tease you with. Struck out 3 times last night, Gomes did. Most of it on off-speed stuff. And that's really the forte of this left-hander's repertoire, is the stuff that's off-speed. Tease you with it, down and away. Going there again.
You talked about all the strikeouts last night, 17 of them by Milwaukee pitching. That was a season high for the Reds in terms of strikeouts by their hitters. Boy, he and Gomes and Bruce in particular, had a rough go of it. Gomes is out on strikes. Phillips takes off. That's the second out of the inning.
Now, you talked about how the Milwaukee Brewers have fallen on hard times. Well, mainly it's their pitching. And you see those teams right there, except for Colorado. None of them were really in the hunt at all. Pittsburgh has guaranteed themselves of, again, a number 1 draft pick, the first ever overall pick in next year's draft with that bad record. But it's all about pitching. And that's one reason why the Brewers are a little bit more optimistic going into next year. They'll have a healthy Capuano all year long, Chris Narveson. Tomorrow's starter, Randy Wolf. Of course, with the Yovani Gallardo and the young man who pitched against the Reds last night, Mark Rogers.
Well, you see back-to-back teams then in here, don't you? With Houston, who's had a terrific second half and very optimistic towards 2011, and the same can be said with this Milwaukee club.
Yeah, you can only take that so far, though, Jim. Really, I'm talking about optimism with the Brewers. I do think that they'll take a step forward next year. But how many years in a row do we see the Reds win after, say, August 15th, when they were almost or all but officially out of it? Then they all of a sudden put a spurt on, and you say, boy, you can't wait till spring training next year. They'll take that momentum from this previous year and go into next year. It doesn't usually happen like that. You make your own momentum starting opening day.
These two clubs, of course, have had very good offensive years. The Reds have been at the top of the National League batting average ranking virtually all season long. Milwaukee in the top 5 as well. Here's Jay Bruce, fanned 4 times last night.
Despite the heroics that Jay Bruce showed on Monday night during the the division clinching game and the home run that he hit the dead center field. You still have to remember that Jay Bruce is only 23 years old. He's still feeling his way around the league, still feeling his way on what a grind it is from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Remember last year he didn't play the entire season because he broke his wrist mid-season. And he's going to go through some times when he looks like he hasn't ever played the game before, and other times he can go and carry this ball club.
He's another one, though, that has had a better second half than first half.
And I think a lot of that has to do, Jim, with the fact that he removes himself from the injury that he had last year. I mean, a lot of people don't take as much consideration as to what a wrist injury can do to a hitter. And I really think it set Jay Bruce back a lot more than people will admit. Even though he didn't complain of any pain in that wrist, you still don't get your strength. You still don't have the flow that you have when you're coming back from an injury. Even when you're 23 years old, it takes a full year.
He is out on an off-speed pitch. Jay has struck out now in his last 5 at-bats, and the inning comes to an end. 1 complete, no score. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Homer Bailey trying to work his way into the postseason rotation. So far, so good. A good start to this game. 3 batters, 3 strikeouts. Big Princefielder leads things off here in the second. Alonso to Bailey. 1 pitch, 1 out. Yonder Alonso really hasn't had much playing time at all down there at first base, but he handled that one nicely.
Well, it was an experiment that they had down in AAA, Jim, and you'd know more than anybody about that, but they put him in the outfield for a while, recognizing the fact that Yonder Alonso, recent #1 draft pick from just a couple of years ago, they feel that he's very close to being major league ready in his offense, but where's he going to play? I mean, after all, you got maybe the league's MVP this year, Joey Votto, playing ahead of him, and Votto's still a very young man. I guess it's a good problem to have, you know, having too much talent at any one position. But, you know, Yonder Alonso's got to be biting at the bit, wondering, okay, you know, I'll do some time in AAA, but where am I going to go from here?
Well, he put up some pretty good numbers combined this year between AA and AAA, right near the 300 mark. Good home run power. He hit 15, 72 RBIs, and that was after a pretty slow start down at AA Carolina.
He's got good stage presence in the batter's box, Alonso does, and he works hard. Very friendly young man.
He's making only his 3rd start since coming up on the 1st of September. Yonder Alonso. Meanwhile, Casey McGee's had a very good year for this Milwaukee club. 22 homers, first time ever, with 101 runs batted in. Starts the day at 285. This is a guy who hit 16 home runs last year, only drove in 66. He's gotten himself a lot more comfortable against National League pitching this year. And still relatively young. You look up and down their lineup. No one in their lineup is 30 plus. In fact, no one is more than 28.
Well, of course, the complicating thing in there with the Brewers is the fact that you've got a first baseman there who's 1 year away from free agency. And already his agent, Scott Boras, is talking Albert Pujols type numbers. So that might be enough to scare, those that write the checks in Milwaukee. And you wonder if over the offseason they'll end up dealing fielder, trying to get maybe a top-notch pitcher in return. The question is, where do you deal Prince Fielder? You already have a league in the National League anyway of flush with first baseman. So it'll be interesting to see what the Brewers do.
Well, it's one thing to hear the talk about that kind of money. It's another thing to actually get it, right?
Very true.
Nicely done at third by Cairo for the second out. Batter will be Lorenzo Cain, and before he could even think about coming to the plate, he had to make sure he had the right jersey on today. He came out in the blues. Brewers are wearing their grays. Boy, he got a hard time from his mates, didn't he? No, it's the Reds who are wearing the colored tops today. The Brewers are wearing the road grays. Lorenzo. Starts the day at 288, but in a dreadful slump right now, hitting only 113. 6 for his last 53. This is the guy that they look to in the future in the outfield, isn't it?
It is, and he made one of the best catches we've seen all year long right here at Great American Ballpark in left center field the last time the Brewers were in town. But he's got a big swing. So notice how he points the barrel of the bat right towards the pitcher. And when you do that as a hitter, you really lengthen your swing. When you take the very end of your bat, not the knob where your hands are, but the other end, way up at the very top. And if that bat starts pointing towards the pitcher when he gets up here, you really lengthen your arc in order to get to that hitting zone.
Fair ball down the line. It sounded like he broke his bat. Cain's going to get extra bases. Gomes will get that ball back in. Cain has himself a 2-out double. You guys were talking about the length of his swing last night against Aroldis Chapman. He really had no chance against him, did he?
Well, you know what? When you start doing what he does with that bat and lengthening your swing, now he was way out ahead of that pitch because it was an off-speed pitch. I think either a changeup or a curveball by Bailey.
His 10th double of the year.
He swung so hard a couple of times last night he fell down.
Yeah. One of those was against Chapman. Here's the catcher, Jonathan Lucroy. Hitting .253 with 4 home runs, 25 runs batted in. George Gutierrez, their other catcher. We mentioned Jeff Zahn, been out most of this season with a right shoulder injury.
I see Greg Zahn around town every once in a while. You know, he's a resident of Cincinnati in the offseason. They say a sprained shoulder. I think he had shoulder surgery. He was walking around with a sling in his arm for quite a while. We wish him the best. He's a good guy.
So Lucroy, who started the year at AA in Huntsville, then went up to their AAA club at Nashville, gotten a good amount of playing time. This is his first major league season. He's 24 years old.
Bailey slipped on that one. Yeah, that ball went really wild at the plate, and he was somewhere near the strike zone with it. But watch where he lands his left foot down. He's going to wave off the trainers. But we've seen Homer do this from time to time. He takes a long stride, and boy, that foot just slips out from beneath him right there. And somehow that ball ends up near the strike zone.
And that's a situation right there, isn't it? That's tailor-made for a possible groin strain.
Yeah, sometimes you see that more often when the mound is wet after a little bit of a rainy day. Homer has a very long stride. He, like Aroldis Chapman, a number of other pitchers that the Reds have, and that's where he lands right there, and you see him end up, you want that as firm as possible right there. So they end up landing, and you have a good solid base when you put your foot down.
Got him on strikes. Number 4 for Homer Bailey. And they strand the runner Kane out at second base. Here come the Reds with Cairo leading it off in the bottom half. No score. Center field during today's game, Jerry Morser of Cold Spring, Kentucky will win this beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. Register for your chance to win at an upcoming game, and there's only one more, by seeing one of your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Along with Chris Welsh, Jim Kelch here in the booth at Great American Ballpark. Jim Day doing what he does best, roaming around the ballpark. Tom off doing football, Paul off doing football. Happy to fill in here on the TV side, particularly to work with Chris Welsh.
Happy to have you here, Jim.
Cairo, Alonzo, Hannigan due up here in the bottom of the second for the Reds. Invaluable member of this ball club this year, Miguel Cairo. 1 out. Chat with Hall of Fame baseball writer Hal McCoy during today's game. Plus, check out the Cannon Shot podcast to hear from the Blue Jackets training camp as they get ready to head to Sweden exclusively on FoxSportsOhio.com. Presented by 1-800-AUTO and SafeAuto.com. Here's Yonder Alonso, lefty-lefty matchup. He strokes that ball solidly in the center. A 1-out base hit.
Now, Yonder Alonso, we talked about his stage presence in the batter's box. When you face a left-hander, the first pitch you get, if it's a fastball, that's the one you want to jump on. Look at the solid base he has down here. I mean, he doesn't move his feet. He's got a good, solid front side with a straight leg right there. Yonder Alonso. That's a classic swing on a low fastball. Most left-handers like it down there, and he is no different.
Difficult, particularly, isn't it, for these younger guys who are used to playing every day to come up here and sit for a while, isn't it?
It is, but you know what? They'd rather sit here than sit at home.
You're exactly right. Here's Ryan Hannigan, part of that great catching tandem on this Reds team in 2010.
You know, I don't think there's ever enough way to give him as much credit as this catching tandem deserves, and throw Corky Miller into that for his time when he was up here filling in as well. But I mean, the year that Hannigan has had, 295 batting average. He's upped his run producing total way up over last year. Ramon Hernandez has had a career year at the plate.
Two of them together have produced a dozen home runs. Speaking of Hannigan and Hernandez, a dozen home runs and 88 runs batted in. You had that out of one person, you'd be an all-star.
And usually that spot in the order is a number 8 spot. I mean, Ryan Hannigan almost exclusively bats in the number 8 spot. Ramon Hernandez sometimes out of that number 8 spot. But when you've got that 8 spot producing those kind of numbers, you've got something special. And I think in addition to that, and more importantly than that, is what they do behind the plate catching. They handle the pitching staff very well. I think the advantage of having Ramon Hernandez, who was from Venezuela, catch the Latin pitchers like Cueto and Volquez, and now Chapman, has helped out quite a bit.
Two out as Hannigan hits that line drive to the shortstop. We saw a shot of Corky Miller in the dugout, and boy, at the time when Hannigan was out with the thumb injury and then Hernandez had the knee issue, Corky Miller was the everyday guy for a couple of weeks, and he held his own, didn't he?
You know, he's etched himself out a nice major league career. A little bit here, a little bit there. Rarely does he ever get a full season in the majors in any one year, but you know, in all the 12 or 13 years that he has played, I mean, he's added up some big league time. Just goes to show you that if you're a good catch throw guy and you're willing to put the time in, you can, if you're a catcher, put some times in the major leagues and add to your pension.
He's a very good catch and throw guy.
Looking a little bit like Nacho Libre here today.
Homer strokes it in the left, his 7th hit of the year. 2 consecutive innings. The Reds have threatened. 2 hits in the first. They left them at 2nd and 3rd, and now Drew Stubbs will have a chance. 2 on, 2 out.
I'll tell you what, I really think that since Mike Leake came right onto the scene out of Arizona State and hitting major league pitching like he was batting 3rd in the order, he raised the bar a little bit of expectations for the Reds pitchers. All of these guys have worked on their hitting a lot more. Travis Wood is a very good hitter. Of course, Bronson Arroyo's got more runs batted in than any other Red starter. But Homer's got a pretty good swing, and he gets a changeup right there that he keeps his head right on and lines it into left field.
Well, his swing looks totally different now than it did, say, a year or even 2 years ago, doesn't it? He really looks like he, like you said, he's taking it a little bit more seriously. Order turns over, and it's Drew Stubbs' second opportunity against Chris Capuano. Stubbs sitting at 22 homers, 77 runs batted in. Does have a home run in his career against Capuano. We mentioned earlier was an 18-game winner in 2005 and an all-star in 2006. Stubbs will not qualify to be a Rookie of the Year this year, but it really is his rookie year, even though he had 158 or so at bats last year. It's been a good year for him.
Well, you know what? I don't know how many guys really care about the Rookie of the Year thing. I guess it would be super if he would have been able to do that, but he missed it, what, by 20 or so at bats?
Not many, yeah.
But what he's done in his first year, you know, 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. I mean, when you do that in your first full year in the major leagues, you know, your general manager and manager have a tendency to pencil that in at the beginning of the year, saying, all right, this is the minimum we expect of you. And I think that we're just beginning to see the potential from Drew Stubbs.
Well, he has 29 stolen bases right now, talking about Stubbs. One more, he'll become the 9th player, only the 9th player in Reds history to produce 20 homers, 30 stolen bases in a season. Brendan Phillips, the last to do it, 2007. Johnny Gomes, Dusty Baker, strategizing in the Reds dugout.
Now, Johnny Gomes had a big strikeout there with runners at first and third in the first inning. I think Dusty Baker is telling him that, from what I can follow, is that, you've got to be a little bit more plate discipline on what you're swinging at in a situation like that, to realize that the pressure is on the pitcher, not on you, the hitter. And Johnny went up there very wildly hacking, and, having struck out 3 times last night, once already today, Dusty's trying to get his head right. Not necessarily from a mechanical swing standpoint, but from an approach standpoint. I'll tell you what, if you've ever known Dusty Baker back when he was a hitting coach, he was one of the best around. I mean, to this day, I collect baseball books, instructional books, and I really feel that the book that he wrote, I want to say it's at least 10 years old now, is one of the best ever I've ever read on hitting. Easy to understand. You can give it to a teenager, and he can come out being a much better hitter just by virtue of reading his book.
That's really one of the keys to the whole thing, isn't it? Being able to understand it clearly.
Well, you understand what the pitcher's trying to do to you first, and then you take your strategy from there. You get a guy, a former hitter like Dusty Baker, who just loves the game of baseball. You get him start talking about hitting, or you can go on for hours and hours and hours.
He said yesterday he's so pleased that he's not packing up his office right now, ready to go back west to California, ready to get into the second season that will start more likely than not Wednesday, but could be pushed back as late as Thursday for this Reds team.
Well, if you believe what you read and what you hear, that it'll be many, many years from now before he ever packs up his office for good. The Reds are now working on a multi-year extension for him.
Yeah, no announcement as of yet, but it appears imminent that Dusty Baker will continue to hold the reins for this Reds ball club come 2011. His 3-year contract up at the end of this season.
He certainly has earned it.
Yeah. 8th pitch now of this AB to Stubbs. Ball 4.
I think there's a great example of someone who understands what Capuano is trying to do to him at the plate. If you go up there with a game plan, and that's one thing that Joey Votto does probably as well as anybody on this team, is of what the pitcher's strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and on a certain count, what he wants to do. And Drew Stubbs knew that Capuano was going to try to fool him with off-speed stuff, was very patient. That 3-2 pitch was a changeup.
Here's Cabrera. The Reds runners leading at every base. No score in this game. He hit a double his first time. Trying to get the Reds on the board first here in the bottom of number 2. They threatened in the first and failed. Threatening again here in the bottom of the second. This Capuano, graduate of Duke, drafted by Arizona in 1999, didn't play until the middle part of the year 2000 because he wanted to finish up his economics degree at Duke. So he postponed the start of his professional baseball career to get his degree at Duke. Ball and a strike to Orlando Cabrera. His RBI numbers this year aren't where they have been in the past, but remember, he missed the entire month basically of August with that left oblique strain. Capuano's fallen behind 2 balls and a strike. Reds gunning for their 90th win of the season here today. Ball 3. They are at this juncture the only National League team and one of 2 teams in baseball that are into the playoffs now that have yet to reach 90 victories. Texas also sitting at 89. Borderline, and the crowd reacts. So now everyone will be on the move. Stubbs from first, Bailey from second, Alonso from third. Boy, someone made a nice catch down there with a bare hand, it sounded like, in the stands just beyond the Reds dugout. He didn't back away.
No.
Reset now as Cabrera digs in, and the runners will again be on the move.
Not a bad idea right there if you're Chris Capuano. He's a veteran, 32 years old. He's been around a little bit. You know, 3-2 count, 2 outs, and runners are released. And that guy at second base is the pitcher. So he was hoping that Homer Bailey was just going to kind of go through the motions right there and steal himself an out. He'll have to throw a strike. And a 3-2 changeup.
He gets Cabrera on strikes, his third, and the Reds have left 5 on through the first 2 innings of this scoreless game.
And then whether you go with 12 or 11 pitchers, so you go with an extra position player. And then with the injuries that have bothered Nix and Edmonds, that'll also be another tough decision to make. Well, that's why we'll probably wait till Wednesday to make those final decisions.
Reds general manager Walt Jocketty with our Geico quote of the day, and that's the big question right now, isn't it? Who's going to make up that 25-man roster for the postseason, and how many pitchers will they keep?
Well, it is for the individuals who are on the cusp, Jim. I mean, that's the big thing right now. And for those who really follow the Reds to extremes, you're also going to begin to second-guess who you're taking, who you're not. But, I mean, for the most Reds fans and for really the guts of this thing, it's how your starting 8 play and how your starting pitching does on the mound, and not necessarily who's your second left-hander off the bench, or whether you bring Edmonds or whether he's healthy or not. That may be a factor in the long run, but bottom line is, how is Joey Votto going to match up against those guys? How are the Philadelphia Phillies pitching staff, if that's who you get, end up going to be able to solve the Reds and vice versa?
Well, Jocketty sat down with Jim Day on set during the pregame coverage, and was talking with him about that and many other things. As he said, Wednesday he'll know for sure what he wants to do. That's going to be a bunt base hit. This team is very, very good at bunt base hits this year. That's exactly what Escobar does here, and he is on to start the third.
That's a great weapon. The only guy on the Reds roster that we've seen do this with any kind of consistency is Chris Heisey. When you've got the third baseman playing deep, there's no way that Cairo is going to get there in time. And look how that ball really slowed down in this infield. This is a rather slow infield compared to some around the league. And that's not a bad idea to learn how to bunt and lay it down. I know Drew Stubbs has been working on it a little bit more as the season has gone on, but hasn't used it a lot.
Capuano showing bunt, and Phillips sneaking in behind the runner over there, Escobar. Quick throw down by Ryan Hannigan.
Now, the Reds put that play in a couple of years ago, and it really worked early in the season a lot more than it works now, because every scout around has seen it. Brandon Phillips sneaks in behind, way around the outside right there, hoping to find that runner in no man's land. And a quick throw by the catcher's nabbed a couple of pickoffs already this year.
Capuano does not have a sacrifice bunt yet this season. Now he's at a ball in the straight.
The whole key is to have that second baseman come all the way around. Here's Brandon Phillips, and watch him as he comes all the way around. In fact, he's going backwards, doing a little moonwalk over to first base. And all of a sudden you're there. Works a lot better when you have a pitcher running at first base.
Yeah. He tried a little hidden ball situation there too, just to make sure that Escobar was on the bag. Bunts right through that, and he's in the hole, a ball and 2 strikes.
It's always dangerous when you're a base runner and you've got a batter at the plate, and especially when it's a pitcher, that he bunts right through a pitch that you think is right down the middle, because you're trying to read it as a runner. You're trying to get a big jump, and you're anticipating him at least putting the bat on the ball. When they bunt through it, that's when you get hung out to dry.
Tried to bunt that one, fouled it. He's a strikeout victim, number 5 for Homer Bailey. So the pitcher's job right there to get the runner over, and he fails to do so. Top of the order now, and Ricky Weeks. Homer Bailey starts today at 90 strikeouts and 104 innings pitched. 5 in this game. He's been doing a much better job since coming back off the disabled list in terms of walking batters. Walk numbers way down.
Yeah, in his last 3 starts, he's been pretty good at that, except for his third start, the last one we were talking about, where he walked 5 batters in 3 innings, and that's why he only pitched 3 innings. Gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, Homer did. But other than that, he's been pretty much around the strike zone. Walked only 1 batter in his last outing. That was against the Padres last Sunday.
That was particularly early on when he came up here a major issue. He just couldn't get the ball where he wanted to.
Well, he walked 8 batters against the Padres back in April when the San Diego team came into Cincinnati. Excuse me, he did not. He struck out 8 that ball game. I'm reading the stat sheet wrong. 5 is the high of the year for him, and that was against the Arizona Diamondbacks. But you know, it's not necessarily how many you walk. It's whether you have control in the strike zone. And when you have a fastball that is as straight as Homer Bailey, you've really got to spot it up on the edges.
Reds pitchers walked 3 last night. Travis Wood walked only 1. The Reds had gone back-to-back games. Arroyo on Thursday, Cueto on Wednesday, where they did not walk anyone. And when Prince Fielder walked in the 4th inning last night, the first walk issued by a Reds pitcher in 27 innings. They really done a good job in that area.
That's an amazing stat right there, because you don't usually see that. Usually on a pitching staff, you have 1 or 2 guys that have real good control and don't walk very many batters at all. When you've got a staff of young pitchers, remember the Reds have a whole bunch of them that are 24 or younger, usually have control problems, and that has not been the case this year. A lot of kudos have to be given to Brian Price, the pitching coach, for getting these guys to understand how important it is to throw strikes, especially in a small ballpark like Great American Park.
Brian, in his first year, the former Seattle, former Arizona pitching coach. Homer gets Weeks to chase that pitch in the dirt, and a full count.
That's a pitch that we would not see Homer Bailey throw before this time in this season. When you first come up in the minor leagues, from the minor leagues, and you go 3-1, you're going to throw a fastball on a 3-1 count. That's his curveball right there. See the rotation from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Ball goes straight down. Ricky Weeks looking for a fastball, swings right over it.
Ricky Weeks second in the National League in runs scored coming into this game, but unfortunately from a Milwaukee standpoint, 3rd in the league in strikeouts. That fan, his first time, is 182nd of the year.
I'll bet you 3/4 of those strikeouts have come on breaking balls. Here comes a curveball here.
Runner was on the move as that pitch was lined foul. Milwaukee club has not done a great job in terms of stolen bases this year, but Escobar, 1 of 4 players in double figures in steals.
See how Homer Bailey spikes his index finger. A lot of pitchers do. The pressure on that middle finger right there, that's the one that's on the seam, and he pulls down with it. But the confidence he has in it to throw with three balls on the hitter, that is just, I'm very, very impressed with that. I mean, when you get a pitcher at his age, 24 years old, who can throw a 3-1 curveball and then come right back with a 3-2 curveball. Here's a guy that possesses a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. You're really filling out your repertoire when you can do that.
Concerned about Escobar over at first base. He's thrown over there now a number of times. Battle raging now between Homer Bailey and Ricky Weeks here in the top of the 3rd.
You know, the other thing that I find impressive is that Ryan Hannigan, in his selfless way of calling pitches, because if you think that Escobar is going to steal, you as a catcher want a fastball because it gives you your best chance of throwing a runner out. But here he is calling breaking ball after breaking ball, knowing that that's the weakness of the hitter, not necessarily trying to throw the runner out. So
9th pitch of the AB results in ball 4. The first walk issued by Homer Bailey, and so an opportunity for the Brewers. 2 on, 1 out in the 3rd.
As an example, Jim, I've pitched to catchers in the major leagues, and every time a runner of any speed gets on to first base, the only sign he'd throw down would be a fastball, because he didn't want to be a guy that would give up a stolen base from a catcher standpoint, even though I knew that the hitter's weakness was a curveball, could never get that catcher to throw it. or to put that sign down, that is.
Despite your shaking him off repeatedly.
Yeah. With me, it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes you couldn't tell fastball from breaking ball, but for Homer Bailey, it does. You're talking about a 20-mile-an-hour difference.
So here's Corey Hart sitting at 100 RBIs. First time to 100 in his career with a two-time All-Star. Let's see if the runner will tag. There's the catch. Jay gets to show off that arm, and he makes an absolute dandy throw on one hop to Cairo at third.
Well, Jay Bruce made a dandy throw last night. Did not get the runner that advanced to third base, but it was as good a throw as I've seen all year long. He just does things mechanically correct. He sets himself up right. He gets some momentum going towards the base he's throwing to. And just a good follow through.
Not too much air under that ball at all. So here's Braun with 2 on, 2 out. Struck out his first time. Starts the day second in the league with 187 hits. Escobar leads the way at second. Weeks at first base.
You may be looking at our radar gun saying, hey, Chris, I thought that you said that Homer Bailey throws 94 and 95. Well, the radar gun seems to be a little bit lower. The last couple of homestands the Reds have had, from what I understand, they had a technician come in and calibrate the machinery that estimates the radar, the speed, and does all that kind of things. And when they recalibrated it and got it working again, it ended up being about 2 or 3 miles an hour lower than, or slower than it had been earlier in the year. That's maybe one reason why Chapman only threw one pitch last night at 100 miles an hour, most of them around 97 or 98. We know he throws harder than that. And it also explains why Homer Bailey's fastball now today only about 91, maybe 92, when he's normally up around 94 and 95.
Well, they got Braun, initially on a fastball and drops that breaking ball in there. Now has him set up at 2 strikes. Homer sitting at 5 strikeouts in this game. Struck out 9 Pirates on the 10th of September. That's a career high for him. One of 3 Brewers with 100 or more RBIs this year. Hart sitting right at 100. Casey McGee at 101. Braun, their leader, at 103. Third straight year he's driven in 100 or more runs. The outside corner for number 6 for Homer Bailey. Middle of the third. No score. or the Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. Then the Redskins battle the Eagles as Donovan McNabb makes his return to Philadelphia. Coverage begins Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern with a Ford Fox NFL pregame show brought to you by the all-new Ford Edge Drive 1. Check local listings for the games in your area. Phillips to begin the home third. Gomes and Bruce to follow, scoreless. Each team has had opportunities early on in this game. Brandon, a solid single to center his first time. Almost hit him there. He avoids it. Ball and a strike. By the way, if you watched the game last night, remember in the 11th inning, he was charged with an error at second base that looked like it might have been a double play ball. That subsequently has been changed to a base hit because they feel like he was screened by the umpire. In the hole and in the left.
That would have been Brandon's only 4th error of the year.
When the Reds get it done with an RBI this season, that means another $25 from Shakely for the Reds Community Fund. Shakely, it's done. Yeah, so put that error total down back to 3 for Brandon Phillips. Take the error away from him last night. It doesn't affect the earned run because Sam LeCure was charged with that run, and due to the ground out, the runner who had been at third was going to score anyway. So it doesn't affect Sam's earned run, but it does affect the error total of Brandon Phillips.
And we'll see if the talk that Dusty Baker gave to Johnny Gomes pays off here.
Playable for Hart. Phillips bluffs the go, stays put. Hart has a very good arm, and he one-hops that one from the warning track into second base. Johnny's 0 for 2.
Yeah, Gomes had a little better pitch to hit that time. Keeping his hands inside the ball very nicely right there. Gomes hits it, just gets under it a little bit. Well, you got to love his spirit, though, his enthusiasm.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that goes out, plays hard every day, and appreciates the fact that he's a Major League Baseball player. He was very pleased, safe to say, after the Tuesday game when the Reds wrapped up the Central Division. Celebrated in the clubhouse and after with his teammates and the fans of Cincinnati. Had a good time. Runner going as Bruce connects on this ball. High and deep and gone. A home run. After striking out all 4 times, he was up there last night until the intentional walk in the 11th, and striking out his first time today. Number 23 for Bruce has given the Reds the 2-0 lead. His 6th home run in his last 23 plate appearances against left-handers.
You know, nearly half his home runs this year have come off left-handers. That's very impressive for Jay Bruce. And every one of those pitches, if you were to chart Jay Bruce's hot spot, it's going to be somewhere right around there. Very similar to where Adam Dunn's hot spot was for home runs in the strike zone. He likes it up, he likes it away, outer third, and he ended up pulling that ball. And he's got plenty enough power to juice it on out of here, even if he doesn't get all of it. See where this pitch is. It's up above the belt, and it's on the outer part of the plate. That plate is up here on the outer part, and that's just about where he makes contact.
Of course, it was a left-hander, Burdick, with whom he hit the home run on Tuesday night.
And this guy, Chris Capuano, he's not one of these left-handed pitchers that gives up lefty home runs very much. In fact, that's only the third homer that he's given up to left-handers this year.
Cairo keeps things going with a single in the center. Reds did not hit a home run ball last night. Milwaukee hit one. The Reds now lead the National League with 185 home runs. Fourth in the big leagues behind Toronto, Boston, the Yankees from the American League. But they've taken advantage of where they play, haven't they?
Yeah, you know what? You play for your home field advantage no matter what you do. If you're the Padres, you load up with pitching. If you're the Reds, you're going to have one of the better offensive ballparks in the league. You should be up there in home runs, and hopefully those home runs come with runners on board. That's why in this ballpark, Jim, I really think the strikeouts are a killer, because anybody that can put the ball in play here has a chance to go deep. When the team overall began to cut down on its strikeout rate, you're going to put more balls in play and give yourself more chances to hit the ball out of the park.
Alonso hit the ball hard on the first pitch. He saw his first time a base hit into center. Alonso now ahead on the count, 2 balls and a strike. He started the game Wednesday following the clincher on Tuesday night and went 0 for 3. But primarily has been used as a pinch hitter since his call up in early September. Jammed on that pitch, and they'll get a pair to end the bottom of the third. But the good news is the Reds come up with a couple. We'll take one more look at Jay Bruce's 2-run homer here in the bottom of the third. Through 3, 2-0 Cincinnati. Toyota dealers, where you can register to win the Tundra here at Great American Ballpark. By JTM Food Group, proudly serving the finest food service operations in the industry, restaurants, schools, and the military. JTM Food Group. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And by GMC, we are professional grade. Good look at a pretty good Saturday afternoon crowd here at Great American Ballpark, second to the last day of the 2010 regular season. For the first time in 15 years, there will be baseball after tomorrow for this Reds club. They're into the postseason as they win their second National League Central Division crown. They won the first one that was crowned in 1995. Three-division play started actually the year before that, 1994, but of course that was the year of the baseball strike and no postseason. Homer jumps ahead of the big man, Prince Fielder, 2 strikes. Rolled out to the right side his first time. People say when the air gets like this, it's football time, but it's postseason baseball time.
Yeah, you know, it seems like a whole generation people thought it was football weather, but those of us who followed the Reds during the Big Red Machine era, Jim, I know you're one of them. Even though you were in St. Louis at the time, you had to acknowledge the Reds, what they were in the mid-'70s. And this is postseason baseball time. Early in the year, you bring your sweaters and your parkas to the ballpark. And late in the year, if you're fortunate enough, you dig out those clothes again for some important ball games.
Prince Fielder could not get up to that pitch. He strikes out, and that is now 7 of them for Homer Bailey.
Well, he is on some kind of a roll as Homer Bailey. Goes upstairs here with a fastball. He holds that ball a little bit, not quite perfectly across the seams, but he runs that ball up, and it never really does sink. Humans cannot throw a fastball that will actually rise, but they won't sink as much as the eye suggests that they will, and that's what gives you the impression the ball rises, and that ball right up and over the bat of Prince Fielder.
Casey McGee fouls it. Chris, you're talking about the 70s and the Big Red Machine, and of course everybody remembers 75, 76, but really Cincinnati was in the postseason in the 70s. It seemed like every year. 70, 72, 73.
And then the roster began to turn over around 73, and some of the guys that became members of the Big Red Machine became part of that 25-man roster. Nothing like bundling up for a World Series game in Cincinnati, and this might be the year the Reds will do that.
Wouldn't it be something if somehow they could get to the World Series and take on Minnesota? You'd never need to take those jackets off, would you? They open up that new ballpark up there. They're into the postseason. Still amazing, though, isn't it, when you think about Target Field? They build that new ballpark in Minnesota without a retractable roof.
That'll be a topic for debate many times in the future, I'm sure, Jim, whether it's in April when they open up the season up in Minnesota and they have an odd, I shouldn't say odd or uncommon, but they have a snowstorm that may throw them out for a day or two, or then when they get to the postseason. Of course, the Twins have had a formula that worked for them, small market, small payroll, and postseason all together. It'll be chilly up there. There's a split finger pitch that Homer Bailey learned from Justin Lear down in Louisville last year, and he's used that as his changeup, and it's been very effective for him.
One out base hit for McGee. That is the 3rd hit of this game for Milwaukee. They bring the tying run to the plate as Casey McGee continues to hit well. And for us, time to take a look at our AT&T trivia question of the game. Who has the most career RBI in the postseason? Speaking of postseason, for the Redlegs. Who has the most career runs batted in postseason play for the Reds?
All right, well, last night our question was who had the most home runs in postseason. That was Johnny Bench. So I'm going to stick with the same guy I guess with last night, which was Tony Perez. Got to be a member of the Big Red Machine somewhere.
Got to be. You're going to say Tony Perez.
The big dog. Yeah.
Okay. I would tend to agree.
All right. I mean, I'm wearing the Johnny. I mean, Tom Brenneman just wearing the Johnny Bench guess out.
Was he? He's been saying it for
every time.
Everything is Johnny Bench. He loves JV.
Well, you know what? And most of the time he's right. When you're talking about career home runs for a guy that played his entire career with the Reds, postseason, because he played a lot of postseason games. Great player. Maybe the best catcher in the history of the game. It's a pretty safe bet, which says a lot about Tom.
Into the corner off the bat of Kane. Gomes will get it back in. It's going to be second and third with one out as Lorenzo Cain picks up his second double of this game. That one hit considerably better than the first one. That's his 11th of the year.
Yeah, but both of the doubles that Cain has have come off speed pitches, and that ball was one of those splitters that we talked about. But it really looked like Homer slowed his arm down in delivering that pitch to the plate. He telegraphed it all the way, and he left it up in the strike zone, and Cain wallops it down the left field line. So the guy that couldn't figure out what jersey to wear today ends up with half the Brewers hits.
Well, this Milwaukee club came from 2 down last night. They trailed 2-0 and 3-1, and eventually posted a win on the road, 4-3 and 11. They trailed 2-0 today and have runners at second and third with one out here in the fourth. Jonathan Lucroy, a strikeout victim his first time. Not had any success against Reds pitching this year.
Well, that is such a key right here. The first pitch strikes, getting ahead of the hitters, especially when you're looking at a strikeout pitcher. He's got 7 punch outs in 4 1/3. Homer does, or make it 3 1/3. Getting ahead of myself here.
Working in number 8 here as he gets ahead of Lucroy 1 and 2. See him blowing on that hand. It's actually a cool Saturday afternoon. Homer ready to throw his 80th pitch. We're only in the 4th inning. The Reds will win the season series against this Milwaukee club. They come into today's game 9-3 against them, and they have just dominated, minus St. Louis, the Central Division this year. People like to point to the numbers, Chris, of, well, this team has played well against teams under 500, not so well against teams that are above the 500 mark. And of course, there are no teams under 500 once you get into the middle part of October.
Yeah, that's true. But, you know, you can counter that by saying the Reds have played over 500 baseball against those good teams at home. Now, unfortunately, the Reds are going to have to play on the road no matter where they go. They don't know right now where they will go. But, you know, I think this ball club is poised to surprise a lot of people. I really do. I mean, I think that, you know, there's nobody on his pitching staff that throughout the course of a whole season can go toe-to-toe with Roy Halladay and expect to come out a winner. But on one particular game, you might be able to get him. The Reds got him here last time he pitched in Cincinnati. There's no reason to think why, Lightning can't strike again.
Yeah, Bruce had a 2-run homer against him.
Yeah, late in the ball game. And, it's one of those things where this team's got a lot of confidence in itself. I think that's very important.
Brewers will get a run on the board as Cabrera throws out Lucroy for the second out of the inning. Give Jonathan his 26th run batted in as McGee touches the plate. 2-1 Cincinnati.
Pretty good at bat right there, really, by Jonathan Lucroy. I mean, he was on the verge of being another strikeout. He strikes out. They don't get a run in, but Homer ended up throwing him that off-speed pitch again. He was able to get the ball down on the ground into one of the middle infielders playing deep. There's an advantage right there. This shows you where when you strike out, you don't help your ball club at all. When you make an out like that, it can be a productive out. Pick up a run batted in.
The Reds will walk Escobar to get to the pitcher, Capuano. There's the Milwaukee hurler who came into this game with 16 ABs and 8 strikeouts. He'd certainly rather face him than Escobar. With a bunt hit his first time up. Bailey will face Capuano with runners at the corners and 2 men out. Here comes Capuano. Talking a lot about who the Reds will play in postseason. Odds are Philadelphia. Phillies taking on Atlanta down in Atlanta to close out the regular season. Philly today has Vance Worley on the mound against 10-game winner Tommy Hanson. That one starts at 4:10, and then the big one out in San Francisco. San Diego and San Francisco also gets underway at 4:10. Tim Stauffer, who's been pitching very, very well for San Diego, against 9-13 lefty Barry Zito.
Just from a baseball fan standpoint, love to see that go down at the last game tomorrow. Would you not?
I agree with you. San Diego won last night. Atlanta lost, so Atlanta's clinching number to be the wild card team still sitting at 2. San Francisco's magic number to win the West is 1. They just need to get 1 victory there, but there is the possibility that those 3 teams, San Francisco, San Diego, Atlanta, could end in a 3-way tie. That would produce the 2 days of extra baseball on Monday and Tuesday. A lot of people, for sentimental reasons, would like to see Atlanta get in with Bobby Cox in his final year as the skipper of the Braves. Bailey has Capuano set up at 1 and 2. He just did stay alive with a runner taking off from first base, Escobar. The Reds cannot take on Atlanta in the first round, but if Atlanta gets in, they could conceivably meet in the NLCS. In fact, they're the last playoff team the Reds were to face back in 1995 after sweeping the Dodgers in the NLDS 3-0. One of them in Cincinnati. The Reds were swept by the Braves in the 95 League Championship Series. First 2 here, last 2 in Atlanta. Broken bat to first, but Alonso is able to navigate that, makes the play to retire the side. So Homer Bailey still has his lead intact as we go to the bottom of the 4th. for another exciting season of Reds baseball. With a deposit of just $100, you will guarantee huge savings plus exclusive benefits and experiences available only to Reds season ticket holders. Lock in opening day, the Yankee Series, and the weekend Cardinal Series now. Visit Reds.com/tickets for all the details.
Of course, the earlier you get your season tickets, the better chance you have of getting the ticket and the spot of your choice. They will be grabbed up more next year than ever before.
Hannigan to begin the home fourth. Reds in front 2-1. They've already collected 7 hits through the first 3 innings of this game. Hannigan scorches this ball. This is going to be extra bases as that ball will one-hop the wall. There goes Ryan into second with a leadoff double. Good start for the Reds. They get their 8th hit of this game, and for Hannigan, double number 11.
Really, in my mind, the most remarkable turnaround offensively of any player on this roster, Ryan Hannigan. Last year had a real tough time driving runs in. Only had 11 runs batted in over 240 at bats last year. That's not a very good rate. This year, he brought with him, after a lot of work in the offseason, a new batting style, new stance, a new approach. He's hitting the ball way harder than he ever has. I'm seeing him bomb the ball into the upper deck in batting practice, something we never saw out of Ryan before. He's turned himself into a frontline major league catcher.
Well, he really has. Now Homer will try to move Hannigan over to third base.
Homer pulled that bat back like he was trying to bunt it down the first baseline. His aim down there is down that third baseline. Casey McGee hugging that third base bag very closely. He wants to stay at home if at all possible, so Homer needs to get that ball that way. Down the line. Don't pull that bat head back. You point the head of the bat right at the second baseman, and that ball will go right down this third baseline for you.
Right direction, but foul, and Homer's in the hole, 2 strikes. And Prince Fielder would love nothing more to see that ball come right at him. He would gun that thing over to McGee in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and it's not an easy play. A little easier here for the runner at second base because it's not a forced play at third. But that's not an easy place to be right now, especially if you're a catcher running out there. They want to get that lead runner in a 1-run ball game. You try to get a good lead, but you don't want to get picked off. If he bunts through it, you might get picked off by the catcher.
Homer showed bunt and then swung away. He had a base hit his first time.
I love that play. There is no reason really why, especially against a guy like Capuano. Capuano only struck out 1 batter in his last start. He's got 3 punch-outs on the day today, so he's not an overpowering pitcher. Go ahead and get way in the front of the batter's box, choke up, fake bunt, pull it back, and slash it somewhere.
Percentages certainly go your way in terms of where those fielders are.
You don't strike out on a foul ball either.
Same showing there by Homer. Takes a ball. That time he stayed with the bunt all the way. 2-2 now to Bailey.
either way, Homer has made Capuano work in this plate appearance. See what Mark Berry and company have in mind for Homer right here. 3-2. Runner at second and no one out in the bottom of the fourth. Capuano now will throw his 70th pitch, his next delivery to Homer Bailey. Got himself in the hole quickly in this plate appearance. 2 strikes. Now we'll look at the 9th pitch from Chris Capuano here in the bottom of the fourth. And finally, Capuano disposes of Homer Bailey on strikes. His 4th strikeout. Take a look at our AT CIN trivia question and its answer. Who has the most career RBIs in the postseason for the Reds? Chris said Tony Perez, and indeed you are correct.
Finally, I got one right.
'24 postseason career RBIs for Tony Perez. Reds manager. His retired number. Johnny Bench is right up there though, 20.
Like to see get some of these current Reds on that leaderboard, huh?
Other than Bobby Tolan, everybody on that group from the Big Red Machine. Stubbs gets himself a base hit that'll move Hannigan along. Stubbs on base for the 2nd time. He came into this game hitting .342 over the course of his last 21 games. He is really peaking at the right time. Here's Orlando Cabrera, 1 out of 2. Struck out his last time with the bases loaded and 2 men out. That's here with runners at the corners and 1 out. Trying to add to his RBI total, sitting at 41. Brandon Kinsler, a right-hander, now is up and throwing in the Milwaukee bullpen. Capuano was the last batter to hit in the top of this inning for the Brewers. Stubbs was leaning somewhat, but gets back in time. Looking for number 30 in terms of stolen bases. Already a 2020 man this year. A little different look there in terms of the delivery from Capuano. He gets it in there for a strike, and it's 0-2.
He's always been regarded as one of these left-handers with a real good move. There was a time there back earlier in the 2000s, say 2004, 2005 seasons, that he'd pick off 4, 5, 6 runners every year. He kind of hangs his right leg up there, kind of hesitation a little bit, tries to freeze the runner. If he takes off, he fires it over to first base.
Exactly what he did in that last pitch.
In fact, in his career, he has given up only one more stolen base than caught stealing.
Wow.
And that's a terrific ratio. He is really trying to keep the ball down on Orlando Cabrera. Cabrera saw the first pitch of this ball game for him, a high slider, and he roped it down the left field line for a double. And then the next at bat, Capuano kept the ball just down around the knees the entire at bat. He's doing the same thing right here. That means throw to first base.
Game slows to a virtual crawl here in the bottom of the fourth as Capuano deals with Cabrera and Stubbs on the other front. Hart nears the line. Hannigan will tag and come home. Gonna be a close play. In there is Ryan Hannigan. Good throw by Hart, but Hannigan hustled down the line and knocked the foot away of Lucroy to get in there, and it's a 3-1 game.
Now Hart plays his ball pretty well. He gets rid of it very quickly. You can't really put a much better throw on it than he gave Matthew Lucroy. It's just that Ryan Hannigan beat it by a step. Clearly his foot was in before the tag was made, and the Reds play small ball for another run.
Because that ball came in from right field, was a little bit on the first base side of the plate, caught the ball, had to come back. They appealed to third, saying that Hannigan had left early, denied down there by Bill Welke. Seventh sacrifice fly of the year for Cabrera. The Reds get the run back that they gave up in the top of this inning. Brandon 2 out of 2 started the day at 272 up to 274 now. He is slowly but surely making a recovery from that stretch of games when he was playing with that right hand injury when he was hit by the pitch out in San Francisco.
It was interesting to hear him say, Jim, that it was in the post-game celebration after the Reds clinched on Monday night that he told Jeff Piccolo on the air in our post-game show that he really could have gone on the disabled list with that injury, that it felt that bad. It swelled up. You know, he missed about 5 or 6 games anyway, but they did not put him on the DL. But he could have gone on the DL because the recovery time, even when he went back into the lineup, he just wasn't right. You could see he had no bat speed. He wasn't swinging with the authority he normally does, but he's coming on strong right now.
In the hole now, 1-2, as he took a mighty cut at that ball. It really is amazing, isn't it, that he didn't go on the DL, because it affected not only his swinging but his throwing as well.
Yeah, it did, and it was a while, but I mean, several days before he was even out to take ground balls and be able to throw the ball. Guy wants to be in the lineup every day. There's no question.
Dusty was reluctant to take him out of that leadoff spot. Eventually did. Brandon didn't like it, but understood. to see him coming around here late in the season. Hart coming on, diving forward and cannot get it. Stubbs around third, being waved home, and now stops as Hart recovered quickly to get that ball back in. Drew was on the move and got easily to third, and Mark Berry had the arm waving for a moment, then held up as Hart recovered quickly out at right.
And a heads-up play by Brandon Phillips, because he sees Hart miss this ball. And Hart comes up firing to the plate. When he recovers and finds out where the ball is, he realizes, hey, there's Drew Stubbs on the base pass. I better get it in here. Stubbs, meanwhile, is coming around third base, and Brandon Phillips sees that no one cuts that ball off, and he walks on into second base. So now with a couple of runners in scoring position.
Second and third, 2 out for Johnny Gomes. And Ken Maka will make the slow walk to the mound. He's had the pitcher in the bullpen, Brandon Kinsler. And it will be Kinsler who will enter this game, as Capuano had been pitching pretty well. 4 consecutive quality starts, will not get one today. We'll take a break. Our Skyline Chili called to the bullpen. Official gear, including the latest apparel, memorabilia, and authentic classics for the whole family. Get your gear straight from the source. Shop the Reds.com official store today.
Brandon Kinsler is a pitcher. Spent most of the season this year down in Double-A, where he was a Double-A All-Star. Made his Major League debut earlier this month against the Chicago Cubs, in now for the 7th time.
He inherits second and third with 2 men out. Chris Capuano able to get through just 3 2/3 innings in this game. Johnny Gomes, who was up there in the first with runners at second and third and 1 out, and again with a runner aboard in the 3rd inning. He's 0 for 2 today. Tries to get the better of Brandon Kinsler.
Interesting story on Kinsler. He was originally drafted by the Padres and then let loose, had a sore arm, and signed on with an independent team, the St. Paul Saints, and that's where the Brewers saw him last year. You run into that story about 3 or 4 times a year where a player that seemingly out of organized baseball, that's what they call minor league baseball of affiliated teams, ends up playing in an independent team, and there are scouts that scout those teams. Of course, you have the Frontier League in this area. You've got the Northern League.
There's one out in California, I believe, also.
And one, of course, up and down the East Coast.
The Atlantic League.
The Atlantic League.
Yeah. That's where it seems a lot of the ex-big leaguers end up. Combs has worked it to 2 balls, 2 strikes. Capuano 3 2/3 innings, 10 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a wild pitch, a home run ball,
and some serious dancing.
Yeah. His final run total yet to be determined. Those runners on. Phillips at second, Stubbs at third. Responsibility of the starter Capuano. There's Drew and Brandon. And a miss by Johnny Gomes. So Kinsler does the job and the side retired. Reds come up with 1 and lead by a pair through 4. Bruce. Hero on Tuesday night gets the 2-run homer here today in the 3rd. Put the Reds up 2-0 at the time. They lead this game now 3-1 as we head into inning number 5. Our Coors cold hard blast of the day. Ricky Weeks gets things going here in the 5th inning. Homer sitting at 91 pitches, 92 pitches into inning number 5. Needs, of course, to get through this inning, qualify for the victory, his 4th of the year, if he can get it. Top of the order featuring Weeks, then Hart, then Braun here for Milwaukee. Weeks has struck out, walked in this game, going 1 for 4 with his 29th home run of the year here last night.
You know, Weeks is kind of like Jay Bruce, in as much as he's been always a very high publicized prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. Last year he had a wrist injury that required surgery, had it back in May, and it was out for the entire year. And he got off to kind of a slow start this year, but he's coming on more and more as the season goes on. I draw that parallel between the two because they're both young players. They're both very high prospects, and they both have sustained wrist injuries that really set them back offensively. And both very good fastball hitters.
There's an example and a base hit into center field, and so just like that, the tying run will come to the plate. Hold your special event this holiday season right here at Great American Ballpark and let the Cincinnati Reds help create major league memories that will last a lifetime. Call the Reds Special Events Department to make your holiday plans now. 513-765-7065. So only the Milwaukee first has been a 1-2-3 inning in this game. Reds have not been retired in order yet. Brewers just the one time. They have quite a power fivesome at the top of their order with Weeks, Hart, Braun, Fielder, McGee. There's a strike called to Hart. So trying to extend that hitting streak, which sits at 16 games. Now 1 for 7 in this series. Tip foul puts Hart at 1-2, and we'll send Homer Bailey now to 99 pitches. The next delivery he makes to the plate, number 100 of this game.
That's the one aspect of the game for Homer Bailey that seems to be difficult for him to get past, which has become a little more efficient out there. He's had so many non-decisions when he takes the mound and pitches. I mean, the Reds have won 8 of his last 9 starts, but he's only 3-1 over that period of time. The reason is he throws so many pitches early in the ball game that if he had some pitch count of, say, 110 pitches, 120 pitches, he's not going to make it past the 6th inning. Anytime you turn over the game to the bullpen, you know, in the 7th inning instead of the 8th inning, you risk, you know, having a no decision where somebody's going to blow a lead for you. The longer you stay in a ball game, the better chances you have of picking up the W.
He's had 11 no decisions this year.
And that's really the main reason why, because he's really a 6th-inning pitcher. But with his stuff and his stamina and his age, he really ought to be able to deliver deeper into a ball game. I mean, no better example than the guy that the Reds may face in the first round of the playoffs against Philadelphia, and Roy Halladay. 8 complete games this year. I think 4 of them shutouts. That's finishing what you started.
And Charlie Manuel has named Roy Halladay as his opening game starter.
And he's named Roy Oswalt as the number 2 starter,
right,
and then Hamels as the number 3 starter.
Hart down on strikes. Halladay 250 and 2/3 innings pitched this year. A boatload right there.
Now we're going to review a little bit if we find out a little bit more information as to who the Reds may play. Now we may not know that until, you know, like you say, Jim, Tuesday, but tomorrow during our pregame show we're going to talk a little bit about what we think might be the matchup of the Reds versus the Phillies and kind of scout their top 3 pitchers.
Chris and I want to pass along hello today to June Moore from Fairborn, Ohio. Lifelong Reds fan, 95 years old. She is gratefully back home after some health issues that she's been going through. Very excited to watch the Reds in the postseason for the first time since 1995. So hello to June Moore up in Fairborn. Mentioned earlier that Braun having his 3rd straight 100-plus RBI season, but he's not going to get, barring a big barrage here late, to 30 home runs. He is going to get a double here that'll head toward the corner. Gomes to get it and fire it back in. Weeks in the second, in the 3rd, and now it's 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. And just like that, boy, this is almost like a repeat of last night. Tying runs aboard.
Well, after a couple of strikeouts in this ball game, Ryan Braun finally gets a mistake pitch from Homer Bailey. One of those splitters that he leaves up around thigh high, and Braun picks up his first knock of the day, a double down the left field line.
Batter is Big Prince Fielder. That's 45 doubles now for Ryan Braun. Started today 3rd in the league in that department. Reds have action in the pen. It's the right-hander, Jordan Smith. This will be the 2nd intentional pass and the 3rd walk of the game given up by Bailey. He's going to face the dangerous Casey McGee with the bases loaded and 1 out here in this inning.
Well, you'll get a visit to the mound by Brian Price. I mean, he's in that area now with 107 pitches that Dusty Baker's thinking about. Well, you know, how long are we going to leave him in the ball game? I think they'd love to see him get through this inning, give Homer a chance to finally pick up a W. Having pitched so well here in the last few weeks since coming off the disabled list, he hasn't had a lot to show for it. But he's got to figure out a way to get out of this inning here, bases loaded and only 1 out. Nice easy ball on the ground from Casey McGee, who does not run all that well. Would be exactly what the doctor ordered here.
McGee, in fact, has hit into a Milwaukee team leading 18 double plays this year. Yeah, that's exactly what Homer Bailey, Brian Price, Ryan Hennigan would like right here.
You just love that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what Brian Price says in an exact situation. I talk to him about it from time to time, but you just love the body language that he has out there. He's got this calming influence when he goes out there because, let's face it, when a pitching coach goes to the mound, it's usually at a time of extreme stress, and you need somebody to calm things down, and Price just has that way about him.
And he's back in the dugout. It's all Homer Bailey now in the middle of the field to face Casey McGee. Starts him off with a fastball, strike 1.
Yeah, not a bad idea by McGee. It wasn't a pitch that he liked. It was a pitcher's pitch low on the corner. He's got 100 runs batted in for a reason.
An average of 285 at the start of the day, but well over 300 at 325 this year. Runners in scoring position. He has them loaded here. Lights that one off, 1-2. Chased one out of the strike zone, and McGee is out on strike. Big one right there.
Oh, that's a huge strikeout. That really shows me something from Homer Bailey. That's that fastball, that four-seam fastball he's going to throw on the outside part of the plate. But this is the pitch that not only sets it up, but it also finishes McGee off. It's not necessarily how many strikeouts you have. It's when you get those strikeouts. Very similar to the stolen base. And with bases loaded and 1 out, he needed one badly right there, and he came up with it.
That's his 9th strikeout of this game, equaling a career high that he set on the 10th of September against the Pirates. Tip foul by Kane for a strike.
Well, he continues to do what he's done all game long. That is Homer Bailey, which is throwing first pitch strikes. Kane hit 2 doubles, both of them on off-speed pitches. I would be very surprised to see Homer ease up on him here in this at-bat.
Well, he throws him on that breaking ball.
A little slider on the corner there. There's the slider grip. He's got his middle finger again. That's the power finger. The middle finger is. Lay it right on the seam of the baseball, and you pull that middle finger down. And that is very classic slider spin there. lifted that pitch up and in case he was diving. Watch your chin. You set him up again now for a slider down and away.
Even now at 2-2. Weeks at third, Braun at second, Fielder at first. Brewers have already stranded 5. Reds in front by a pair. Homer trying to keep it that way. Got through McGee and now trying to do the same with Kane. And a full count.
Now that was the pitch he wanted to get a decision on. Homer thought he may have had the very top of the strike zone right there, but a little bit too high. Now with bases loaded, full count, everybody would be running.
Kane already with a pair of doubles in this one. Continues the AB with a foul ball. Another one. 27 pitches now in this inning for Homer Bailey, and 118 on the board out in left center. Leadoff single by Weeks. Hart struck out. Then Braun doubled into the left field corner, and Fielder was walked intentionally. Bases were loaded, 1 out. Bailey was able to get McGee on strikes. Now battling against Lorenzo Cain. Full count. Runners lead at every base. Got him. New career high in strikeouts for Homer Bailey. He gets his 10th, and the Brewers leave him loaded. Middle of the 5th. Still a 3-1 game, Reds. Pitch that got him right over the outside corner at the knees. Cain thought it missed. A new career high in strikeouts for Bailey with number 10. And how did Dusty take it? Excited in that dugout, you bet. Homer so far in this game now through 5, a run on 6 hits, 3 walks, 2 of which have been intentional, and that new career high with 10 strikeouts. But it's taken him a lot of pitches to get there. He's up at around the 115 mark.
Now that probably will be all for Homer Bailey, but he did complete his 5 innings. You know, strikeout pitchers, when you strike out 10, you're going to throw a lot of pitches.
Bruce, who cracked one this way earlier, hits another one this way, and that ball is up against the wall off the glove of Kane, and that's going to be a home run. Second base umpire Sam Holbrook gives the home run signal, and Jay Bruce, who hit one in the 3rd with a runner on, hits a solo shot here in the 5th to extend the Reds' lead.
Well, Lorenzo Cain immediately made a motion, and he was interfered with as he went to the right center field wall to try to bring that ball either back in or off the wall. Ken Maka will have a talk with Sam Holbrook out of second base. We get a second look at it. You see that young man backhanding the ball with the white T-shirt right there. He goes up and probably does interfere. But that ball was above the wall, at least from our perspective. Take another look.
Yeah, the umpires will get together on it.
And they're going to go take a review. The 3 of them are heading downstairs to the monitor that is in an area right near between the visitors' dugout and the umpire's dressing room. They'll take a look at that again and see if that ball was interfered with.
Like he just overjumped that ball, didn't it?
Well, no, I think it hit the fan's glove as he was reaching over the fence. I think what you're going to see right here is that ball is going to be called back and probably be a double.
He's already had 4 multi-home run games this year, including the 3 he hit against the Cubs in late August. Does he come up with another one?
You know, it's really amazing how he can go from just stone cold to so hot seemingly overnight. I mean, having struck out 4 times last night, then hits a home run today. We're on right now in a review of his 2nd home run of the day. That's what you get with young players, and we'll see how it stands. The Reds would love to have that 4th run on the board.
Take another look at it here and see what you think. You know, that did hit the glove, but it appeared the glove was over the wall.
Yeah, but if he's hanging over in the field of play, I think that's what the umpires are going to look at right here. That angle shows it, that he was clearly hanging over the wall. Now, that young man is standing up and doesn't break the imaginary plane over that yellow line at the very top of the wall, doesn't break and lean over, then that ball is going to be called a home run. But I think because he was leaning over, the umpires are going to recognize that and probably bring it back to make it a double.
Well, if it stands, it would be 4-1. If not, runner at second base to start the bottom of the 5th inning.
I mean, put yourself in the shoes of that young man sitting out there in right center field. Front row, he brought his glove to the ball game. Here comes a ball off the bat towards him. Your natural reaction is to reach over there and try to catch the ball. That's what he's doing. Lorenzo Cain looks like he would have that ball in his glove. So actually, if it is called fan interference, it's going to benefit the Reds either way, either with a home run by Jay Bruce or an extra base hit. In the meantime, the only thing that Maka and Dusty Baker can do is sit and wait for the umpires to make their decision.
Still another look at it. This was not the quickest of reviews, but here they come now, and they'll signal the home run. I've got to say, I thought it was a home run ball from those different angles. It appeared that he was right atop the wall, but didn't lean over, at least from my perspective. And so the 5th multi-home run game of the year for Jay Bruce gives him his 24th long ball of the year.
Now the home plate umpire, Tim Welke's leaning down to explain it to the Brewers manager, Ken Maka, and Willie Randolph. They're not happy with the decision, but Jay Bruce will get another multi-home run day as he launches his 2nd one to right center field.
Good thing about those reviews, Chris, once they're made, no more argument, you move right on.
There's no appeal to a higher court, is there?
Nope, that's it. 11th hit of the day for the Reds, who now own a 3-run lead at 4-1. Cairo, the man at the plate. Miguel had a hit his last time, 1 out of 2. Finds himself now in the hole, 2 strikes.
You mentioned it earlier, what a great year Miguel Cairo has had, Jim. And, if you could give like a sixth-man award to a player on a baseball team like they do in basketball, I mean, you'd have to give it to Miguel Cairo. I mean, at least in Reds' perspective, we're not tuned into every other ball club as to who their super subs are, but it really hasn't mattered where Dusty Baker has put Cairo. Third, first, in the outfield. And he has just come through big all year long. One of the better, very under-the-radar signings the Reds made in the offseason has come out really smelling great.
Yeah, Cairo was on that Philadelphia team late in the year last year, and while he wasn't on the active roster in the World Series, he was with them during the playoffs and just said, hey, I don't want to go out like I did in 2009. I want another shot. The Reds gave it to him, and he really made it pay off. Yonder Alonso now at the plate. Alonso had a hit his first time and then wrapped into a 4-6-3 inning-ending double play back in the third. Again, getting only his third start of the season, his second against Milwaukee. Now he finds himself behind the ball and 2 strikes. This is still Brandon Kinsler, who came on and struck out Gomes to end the 4th. Working here in the 5th in relief of the starter Chris Capuano. Gave up 3 runs, 10 hits, and 3 2/3. Scoreless game today through 2. 2 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 1 thus far here in the 5th. Reds leading 4-1. And Alonso down on strikes. That's 7 strikeouts now of Reds batters after striking out a season high 17 times in yesterday's game against Milwaukee. Here's Hannigan. He had a sunny day earlier today, albeit somewhat cool. It's gotten overcast now. We had a sprinkling of rain earlier. We see a few umbrellas down below. For the most part, folks jacketed. It's that time of year. Postseason time. Hard hit and by the diving fielder. Base hit for Hannigan. After every playoff game, turn to the team that has covered your Reds all season long. Jim Day, Jeff Piccaro, and Chris Welsh give you the most comprehensive highlights and reaction from the players and the coaches. After every Reds playoff game, turn to the team that has been there from the beginning. The home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio. Chris, you'll be up in Cleveland, right?
That's where the FSN studio is. I'll be up there with Jim Day. We'll bring you the post-game show. Interviews and all the reaction from the site will be brought to us by Jeff Piccaro, who will be on site wherever the Reds are playing. Looking forward to covering the Reds in the postseason for a long, long time.
Willie Bloomquist will bat for Homer Bailey, so Homer finished after 5. 6 hits and a run. And a new career high of 10 strikeouts. to third, and the force out ends the inning. Another multi-home run game for Jay Bruce. A 2-run shot in the third, solo in the fifth, and a 4-1 Reds lead. Chairman of Chiquita, the chief executive officer of Chiquita Brands. He's the honorary public address announcer at today's game. It is Spanish Heritage Day here at Great American Ballpark. On his right, talking with the red jacket, is Joe Zerhusen. He's the normal PA guy at the ballpark. But Fernando Aguirre, Chiquita chairman and chief executive officer, is right in the middle doing some Spanish PA today here at the park.
I'll tell you, he's a huge Reds baseball fan, has been for a long, long time. He owns a piece of the Reds, actually. He's one of the limited partner owners of the ball club and also a participant in one of the YPO Baseball Heaven fantasy camps that the Reds have had in the past, and all the festivities that preceded the ball game today on Hispanic Heritage Day. It was a great day. A lot of the Reds ball players who of Hispanic origin came out and participated and spoke to the crowds before, and Joe Z giving them a few tips.
All sorts of changes for the Reds. We're talking about Spanish Heritage Day. Aroldis Chapman, Edinson Volquez, Johnny Cueto, Francisco Cordero, all part of a 15-minute appearance and autographs, Q&A in the fan zone prior to the game. Reds make a bundle of changes, including Jordan Smith is now in the game in relief of Homer Bailey. Willie Bloomquist, who pinch hit for Bailey, has stayed in the game, and he's out in left. Chris Heisey is now in center. There's a look at Jordan Smith's numbers on the year. 3-2, his 37th game of the year, 3.32 ERA. Fellow that you recall they called up from Double-A. Did have a brief stint late in the season at Triple-A, but by and large it was Carolina Double-A and then the big leagues for him, and he made a pretty good transition.
Yeah, he really did. You know, a lot of people raised their eyebrows when they were wondering who was going to be called up when the Reds needed a pitcher, and they went right past Triple-A Louisville and went right down to the Double-A ball club to grab Jordan Smith. Good hard sinking fastball, keeps it down. He's got a nice hard curveball. Throws a changeup as well. As a guy that was a converted starter. He was a starter for the majority of his young minor league life. Young man from the state of Utah. And they looked at his stuff and said, you know, he throws a little bit harder out of the bullpen with a really wicked breaking ball. That's the makings of a real fine middle reliever. And maybe down the road a closer type.
Outside to Lucroy is nothing out of 2 with an RBI. And that one into left and a base hit for Lucroy. Let's check in with Jim Day.
Thank you very much, Jim. Time now for a Meyer text poll question. Big decisions for the Reds as far as the playoff roster goes. And once it's set, who's your first bat off the bench, we would like to know. Of course, depends on who's pitching, but is it Senor Heisey, Senor Nix, Senor Edmonds, Senor Cairo, or Senor Francisco? Text 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 to 37664. 37664. Standard text message rates applied. While the results coming up. Interesting choice right here. You got to think, if you're healthy, Jim Edmonds.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. I didn't realize you were bilingual.
Just a little.
Very little, right?
I can count in Spanish. That's about it.
As you just showed us.
Just enough to order a cerveza and then find out donde es la baña.
Sí, senor.
Or baño, I guess it is.
You guys could do the PA in Spanish. Cairo and Heisey leading that race early.
Of course, a lot of that depends on who the pitcher is. I mean, if it's a left-handed pitcher, you're going to send up a right-hander. If it's a right-hander, you send up a left-hander. Just goes to show you how many different opinions are out there amongst those Reds fans who are today, during our text poll, get to act as manager.
That one got away from Corky Miller, as we'll take another look at the new defensive setup for the Reds. Tell you about it. It's Bloomquist who stayed in the game. He's out in left. Heisey is in center. Nix is in right. There's Corky Miller doing the catching now. And the new tandem up the middle. Janish playing short and Valeka playing second base. Alonso has stayed in at first. Cairo still in at third. The only two that started the game still in there.
So not one what you would term normal or A-team starter is out there for the Reds right now. And I'm wondering if maybe the rain that has come down and slicking the field up a little bit has anything to do with Dusty Baker making the wholesale changes. Want to make sure one of his 8 players didn't go out there and pull a muscle slipping on wet grass.
Although, you know, when you look at this team and you go around the field, Heisey, Nix, Janish, Valeka, Cairo, Miller all played important roles at one time this year because of injuries. Every time something happened to this club, the Reds, either from someone off their bench or to dip down into the minor leagues, were able to fill that gap, and that's not always been the case in this organization.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, what we've seen over the last decade, Jim, and really more than that, going back 15 years to the last time the Reds won a division, is that your backup players were guys that, you know, really belonged in the minor leagues somewhere, and some of the guys that you were having playing on an everyday basis should be backup players. That's not the case this year. You've got guys that have been major league everyday players in the past who are now sitting on the bench. Lance Nick's a good example of that.
Chris Dickerson has come off the bench to bat for Kinsler, and he'll line this ball to the shortstop, and Janish there to receive for the first out here in the top of the 6th. Dickerson had a pinch hit appearance last night and struck out. Came into this game 1 for his last 16. Now 1 for his last 17 as he is out number 1. So the Brewers will employ a new pitcher in the bottom of the 6th. This is the tying run at the plate in the person of Ricky Weeks, who's 1 out of 2 with a walk. Chasing that ball is Lance Nix. Boy, he's a vital role for this team going into the postseason. They have the injury to Edmonds and the injury to Nix. Certainly Lance is further along, and it was good to see, wasn't it, on Wednesday that he was in the lineup and had to go and chase a couple of balls, and then on Thursday he said, I feel fine, I'm going to be all right.
It was really a perplexing injury. It was an ankle foot injury that he sustained, and when he first happened, no one ever thought that it would take so long for Lance Nix to come back. In the meantime, it looks like he's been hitting the weight room.
He always looks like that, doesn't he?
Man, oh man.
Up the middle, gloved by the shortstop. 1, 2, got them both. Nicely done, and a double play ends the top of the 6th inning. Giannis, Valleca, and Alonso for the twin killing. Light 6th inning. Now it's time for our Coors Light Freeze Can. Hart made the throw home, and look at Hannigan just getting in ahead of the tag. Applied by the catcher, Lucroy. Good play by Hannigan. Good throw from Hart, but not in time. Our Coors Light Freeze Can, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. 4-12-0 Reds, 1-7-0 Milwaukee. We head to the bottom of the 6th inning. New pitcher on for the Brewers, their 3rd of this game. Right-hander into the contest is Carlos Villanueva. 2-0 with a 4.70 earned run average, appearing for the 50th time. This guy's a big-time strikeout pitcher, 67 punch-outs in 51 2/3 innings this year.
Gee, not another strikeout pitcher. It seems like everybody that they've run out there the last couple of nights or day today has been a strikeout pitcher. Mark Rogers last night, making only his 2nd major league start, was part of that strikeout barrage that where the Reds punched out 17 times last night.
Heisey batting for the first time. He's in the leadoff spot. Took the place of Drew Stubbs. He's at a ball and a strike.
Kind of an interesting note we got from our new statistician, Joe Lockhart, who explained in some reason why Homer Bailey threw so many pitches today. Joel looked up and found out that of Homer Bailey's 120 pitches, 75 of them were strikes, and 33 of those strikes were fouled off. Which means 44% of Homer Bailey's strikes were fouled off in one way or another, and that's almost double of what the major league average is.
Wow. So, big time work by Joel right there.
Yeah, that's one reason why Homer is not in there here in the 6th inning. But a good outing overall. 10 punch outs in 5 innings for the Red starter.
Heisey rips this ball to center. Kane will get back and make the catch.
Hey, Reds fans, if you're in the restaurant industry, let JTM help you with great tasting products for your menu. Inspired solutions, better results. JTM.
Batter will be Paul Janisch. The lineup now for the Reds includes Heisey, Janisch, Valleca. The pitcher Smith is actually in the cleanup spot. Then Nix and Cairo. And then the bottom three, Alonso, Miller, and Bloomquist. So big changes for Dusty's club. Second half of this game. Here's Paul Janisch. Started at short the last 3 days. He gets under this ball in the air to right and Hart. There's a danger of going down in order for the first time today. In fact, that's the first time in this game that the first two have been retired. And so the third new batter for this club in this inning is Chris Valleca. He was the one, Chris, who had the playing time. You mentioned those 4 or 5 days when Phillips was unable to start at second, and they turned to the minor leagues and got Chris Valleca, and he really did a nice job to shore up that spot.
He made a play the other night in the series against the Houston Astros, going up the middle, backhanding a ball, then throwing out the runner from his knees that, you know, automatically increased his value as far as trade bait goes. Just by the virtue of so many scouts here at this ball game. I mean, top level scouts are here watching because these are the teams that, of course, two or three scouts per team. But you make a play like that as kind of an unknown minor leaguer, all of a sudden you're on the radar.
Ripped by Valleca, chews up the shortstop Escobar in the left, and a base hit for Chris.
Here's the play that we're talking about against the Astros the other night. Cueto on the mound, and Valleca goes right behind the second base back to make that grab off a one hopper, and then turns and throws his man out from his knees. That's Jeff Keppinger. And in today's game, he rips it right to the shortstop, nearly undresses Escobar with that one, and ends up with a 2-out base hit.
Batter now is Lance Nix. Nix batting for the first time. Jammed on that one and pops it up. And that ball is caught. And the Reds' 6th inning comes to an end. 1 hit, 1 left. 9 stranded by the Reds, but leading 4-1 through 6. Ohio, brought to you by AT&T. Find out what's possible with the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, rethink possible. By your Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Honda dealers. Visit myCincinnatiHondaDealer.com for current offers. And by Grainger, over 900,000 products to help get your job done. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. Through 6 here at Great American Ballpark. Reds in front, 4-1, along with Chris Welsh. This is Jim Kelch, happy to be sitting in on the television side for only the second time this year. Most of my work this year on the radio side. Good to be over here with you, Chris.
Nice to have you, Jim. You always do a great job, and look forward to working with you today. Worked with Tom last night, you today, and Paul Keels tomorrow.
Triple header.
Trifecta to send the season into the postseason.
You know, I was here last night, despite the fact I wasn't working the game, just to watch, and our friend Marty Brenneman gave me a hard time about being here on an off day, and when I got here today, saw him, he said, what did you do, spend the night here?
You know what, I found out something about you last night that very admirable, and I think in the eyes of Reds fans are going to endear you to them very much so.
What's that now?
Even on games that you do not work, you'll either have to be at the ball game, or if you're back home, you'll listen to the game and you'll score the game at home.
I do, yeah.
And that's an amazing thing.
Now, I may not always watch it live, but I can go back and score it on MLB.com. I like to know what's happening.
Sometimes I don't even score while I'm up here in the booth. Too many substitutions, gets out of hand.
It does get a little out of hand.
Blowout game. There's a lot of WWs on my scorecard.
That's okay.
Which stands for wasn't watching.
Wasn't watching.
We thank the scooter, Phil Rizzuto, for that scoring change.
Wasn't watching. DS didn't see. Jordan Smith gets a strike out of Corey Hart. He's able to get the double play ball off the bat of Weeks to end the 6th, and the strikeout of Hart to begin the 7th.
You know, it was Jordan Smith who last night served up that ground ball. You referred to it earlier. The one that should have been and could have been an inning-ending double play that was booted by Brandon Phillips, initially scored an error by Phillips, and then changed as the official scorer reviewed the tape and saw that the umpire probably screened Phillips out of the ground ball. So they gave him a base hit, but it was Jordan Smith that ended up, you could see him in his body language, very disappointed that he thought he was able to get the ground ball he needed to get out of the inning, and it wasn't to be.
He was one of the 8 relievers. Braun is hit by that pitch. Smith was one of the 8 relievers and 9 pitchers that the Reds used in that game last night. Reds are the best fans in baseball, and they'd like to show their fans and say thank you to them during Fan Appreciation Day coming up tomorrow, October the 3rd, presented by Walgreens. There will be drawings for fan prizes throughout the game. You can win trips, merchandise, gift cards, and coupons and more from great Reds partners. For tickets for tomorrow's game, call 513-381-REDS or go to Reds.com. Final day of the regular season tomorrow. It will be nice to know it's not the last game of the season.
Yeah, you know what? I'm so tired every year of going to that last game of the year, walking through the players' parking lot and seeing their cars and their vans filled with stuff. You know, they packed out of their apartments. They're ready to go. A lot of them were headed right out after the ball game. But this year, a different story. They keep their apartments if they can. They extend their leases, hopefully all the way into the month of November.
Yeah, the World Series this year, if it goes all the way, goes into the early days of the month of November, which will be different from next year. You saw the schedule for next year already, and everything is going to start about 5 or 6 days earlier next year, so the World Series can end in October. They get us out to Goodyear, Arizona a little bit earlier next spring.
Not a bad idea. Get out there in February instead of March. You may miss a snowstorm or two here in the great Midwest.
Fielder draws the walk, 2 on with 1 out. Casey McGee will represent the tying run coming to the plate, and Brian Price will again jog to the mound. I assume you enjoyed your first spring in Goodyear this past year.
I did indeed. It was just spectacular complex as far as baseball is concerned. There's nowhere better to go to watch baseball than down in Arizona, where there's so many teams so close. You know, we were talking about it the other night off the air, Jim, about how the city of Sarasota probably has some second thoughts about not trying to work harder to keep the Reds in Sarasota now that they've won the division and they're a postseason team. They picked a bad year not to let the Reds back in there, but they have the Baltimore Orioles. The Reds now for a long time will be in Goodyear, Arizona. Looking forward to getting back to the The warm air of Arizona pretty good.
And now with the Rockies and the Diamondbacks moving up from Tucson to the Phoenix area, all the teams that train in Arizona will be training in the Phoenix area. Goodyear just right out Interstate 10, what, 10 minutes from downtown or so? 15 minutes at the max. So everybody right around there is not a long trip. That's a long blast off the bat of McGee. Hits off the facing of the second deck. And on one pitch, the Brewers, on the strength of the 23rd home run ball by Casey McGee this year, have pulled even with the Reds in the 7th, 4-4.
Yeah, that means it'll be another no decision for Homer Bailey, despite the fact striking out 10 in 5 innings. You leave too many innings to the bullpenners, and this is what can happen. Casey McGee, who made an out with the bases loaded his last time up, struck out for the 9th strikeout of the game by Bailey. Picks on the first pitch he sees from Jordan Smith, and that is a get-ahead fastball that ends off the facing of the second deck. A mammoth shot.
So we are dead even at 4 here at the top of the 7th inning. Casey McGee now with 104 runs batting in. 66 a year ago. Guy that was claimed off waivers from the Cubs has really gone on to a pretty good year with the Milwaukee Brewers, his second with them. Into center, a base hit, and so 4 consecutive now have reached for Milwaukee after Smith struck out Corey Hart. Logan Ondrusek has been throwing in the Reds bullpen. Todd Coffey has started to throw in the Milwaukee bullpen. Dusty Baker has seen enough of Jordan Smith on this Saturday afternoon. That's going to be all for the right-hander. New pitcher will come on, will be Logan Ondrusek. Back to tell you about him in a moment. His 3-run homer against Jordan Smith, number 23, has tied this game at 4. And so for the Reds, a new man on the mound now is the big 6'8" right-hander Logan Ondrusek, who takes over.
He's a big, dependable guy, too. He's had a very good year for a first-year major leaguer. Made the ball club out of spring training, was sent down eventually to the minor leagues, but he's availed himself very well in his 58 appearances. Stranded a lot of runners. Opponent batting average down low 230s.
Talk about a guy who can get that downward angle on hitters. This is the guy, isn't it?
It's like pitching out of a 3-story building when you face this guy.
He will face the catcher Lucroy to lead things off with a runner on, 3 in, 1 out in the 7th. Jordan Smith an inning and a third. 3 hits, 2 walks, a strikeout, 3 runs thus far. The runner on is his responsibility. There you see number 36, Lorenzo Cain. His base hit chased Jordan Smith out of this game. Lucroy 1 out of 3 with a run batted in. Very similar to last night's game when the Reds led 3-1 after 6. Brewers tied it with 2 in the 7th and went on to win it 4-3 in 11. One thing about these pitchers that work at this time of year, Chris, is they don't get the same work as far as consistency is concerned that they do earlier in the year or middle of the year because of so many bodies here.
Well, most managers, though, if they feel that their team's in the postseason and haven't wrapped up, like the Reds have really had, even though they took till Monday to actually clinch, I mean, they were predictably going to be in the playoffs as far back as 2 or 3 weeks ago. I mean, without just a complete implosion. So Dusty Baker's tried to use his same guys in their normal spaces along the way. Nick Masson in the 8th inning, Andrusik in the 7th, along with Rhodes, and now you bring in Chapman in the mix. So you're trying to use those guys in their situations that they will be used in the postseason.
Rhodes and Chapman both appeared in last night's game. Dusty said prior to the game that they would not be available today, but would hope to pitch them tomorrow. Then it would be at least, as a minimum, 2 days before they would throw again if the Reds start the postseason on Wednesday, or 3 days if they begin on Thursday. After walking Lucroy on 4 pitches, now it's Escobar, and Andrusik gets a strike in there. Those games, by the way, in Atlanta and San Francisco are just about to get underway. Yanish handles it. That's the infield fly rule, and there are 2 out. Pitcher spot for Milwaukee is due up. Craig Counsell will bat for Villanueva. Counsell had a big hit last night as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning, an RBI single. A very good job off the bench. The veteran Craig Counsell lives up in the Milwaukee area. He's radically changed his stance around, hasn't he?
He used to have the most radical setup of anybody I've ever seen, holding that bat way high over his head. Kind of looked like a barber pole standing up at home plate. Eventually said, you know what, as long as I've been around, I just don't have the strength at my age to hold the bat that high anymore.
Speed to get it down and get it into the swing in time, right?
Always been a good clutch player.
He's played with Florida. He's played with Arizona.
And kind of curious, really, why the Brewers maybe they were approached. I don't know, but he's the kind of player that if you're a postseason team anticipating needing somebody, you know, as a fill-in player, a good little hitter coming off the bench, left-handed, can play anywhere around the infield. A guy that would be a real addition to your roster in the postseason somewhere. And he's played on championship teams before.
He's at 2 balls, 2 strikes here. Go ahead run for the Brewers. Leads away at second. That's Kane. Counsell, the 8th man to come to the plate here in this, so far, 3-run 7th for the Brewers. Valleca, and the inning is over. But the 3-run homer by Casey McGee has tied it. Bottom of the 7th upcoming. 4-4 game. Couple of home runs today. First and the third, that 2-run shot, and then this one against Brandon Kinsler. Was it a home run? Was it a double? The umpires got together and said yes. Number 2 on the home run department of the day for Jay Bruce, number 24 of the year. He's accounted for 3 of the 4 Reds runs. Out of the game now. Jay in this game went 2 out of 3 with a pair of home runs, 3 runs batted in. We're in the bottom of the 7th. We're tied 4-4. New pitcher on for the Brewers. The former Red is Todd Coffey. Juan Francisco will bat for Logan Ondrusek, who works 1/3 of an inning with a walk. The Reds will employ a new pitcher in the 8th. Juan Francisco bats here against Coffey in the bottom of the 7th. Coffey worked the 7th inning last night. Walked the batter, but had the help of a line drive double play. Juan Francisco, who has done what he's doing now a boatload this year. He has 53 at bats with the Reds, 21 pinch hit at bats, hitting .283 with a homer and 7 runs batted in, and has 1 home run, a pinch hit, long ball. So he has 2 career home runs, 1 last year, 1 this year, both pinch hit homers.
Well, you know, I think, Jim, what he's trying to do is hit a home run every time he steps into the batter's box, just trying to impress the Reds with his home run power. He's got plenty of that, and really not figuring out yet that the important thing for him is to just become a good major league hitter. He's up there spinning on anything that he can get this straight.
Did have a single and a double last night, but struck out in a key situation in the 8th. The chance to push the go-ahead run across. 1st and 3rd, 2 out, and he struck out. That was against Cameron Lowe. Francisco, Cairo, and Alonso, Yonder Alonso here in the bottom of the 7th. Escobar throws Francisco out for the first out here in the home 7th inning. Here's Miguel Cairo. It will be this Milwaukee club that actually starts the season against the Reds next year. Thursday, March the 31st. The Brewers will be in here to get things going. Then Friday the 1st, an open date in case there's inclement weather on the 31st. And then Saturday the 2nd and Sunday the 3rd. Base hit that eludes the glove of Ricky Weeks. Cairo is on, the go-ahead runner here in the 7th. That Brewer club will be in here early next year after being the last team in this year in the regular season. The Reds have yet to go down in order in this game. First 2 are retired in the 6th. That by Villanueva. Leadoff man here in the 7th, but the Cairo base hit. So here's Alonso. 1 out of 3. Foul tip.
That's what they've been keeping on. Yonder Alonso is the high fastball. They're trying to find out whether the rookie's got enough on his swing to get around on that fastball. Right now his swing just a little bit long and a little bit tardy.
Todd Coffey has that unique approach to holding runners on in terms of how he looks at the runner at first base. Why do you think he does that?
He looks over his right shoulder instead of his left shoulder. Most guys, right-handers, look over their left shoulder to first base. It's just easier for him to look backwards and do that. The only other player that I remember doing that was Scott Sullivan, who used to pitch for the Reds back in the mid-90s for a long time, a sidewinding reliever.
Coffey's been known to say that if I don't see him when I look over the right shoulder, he's not too far.
Yep. That was the same thing that Scott Sullivan would say, kind of a way to gauge the lead of the runner by looking over this shoulder over here that way.
Going is Cairo and a foul ball. Reds led 2-0 after 3 in this game, 3-1 after 4. And in the 5th inning, the second home run of the afternoon by Jay Bruce had a 4-1 lead, but a 3-run homer in the top of the 7th inning, offered up by Jordan Smith and hit out by Casey McGee. Pulls us even at 4. With the Reds batting here in the bottom of the 7th. For McGee, his 23rd of the year. Reds have amassed 14 hits. Cracked by Alonso. Kane going back over his head, off the fence. Here comes Cairo. He's being waved around. Here's no throw by Ricky Weeks. He had it in his hand for a moment and dropped it, but they didn't have a chance at Cairo anyway. Yonder Alonso comes up with a big blow here in the 7th, and the Reds regain the lead.
You can see the way that Yonder Alonso sets up, that he really will drive the ball to left center field. And he gets what looks like a little bit of a slider, trying to backdoor him as Todd Coffey on that, and he lines that ball right off the fence. Almost a Chula in left center field. The cutoff man, the first guy, is overthrown. And when it's bobbled by Ricky Weeks, the backup cutoff man, there's no play at home. And Miguel Cairo scoots all the way around from third to give the Reds the lead.
Mark Berry had that arm waving.
That's one of those situations really defensively, Jim. You need to send that shortstop as a cutoff man farther out into shallow left field to be able to get the relay throw. There's no reason why your backup relay player, in that case the second baseman Weeks, is only about 6 feet behind your first guy.
Corky Miller now will try to add to the new Reds advantage. Alonso gets his second double, his 3rd RBI, his first double and run batted in here at Great American Ballpark. Comes at a pretty good time here in the bottom of the 7th. Miller batting for the first time. Two former teammates, Corky Miller, Todd Coffey. Todd, of course, came up through the Reds organization, as did Corky. He hammers one to center. Kane going back, looking up, gone, a home run. Corky Miller laid the lumber on that ball. His second home run of the year. This has been a 3-run inning. 7-4 Reds.
Boy, that number 8 spot in the order has been awfully productive this afternoon. Ryan Hannigan, a couple of hits. And a run scored, and Corky Miller, a 2-run bomb right out the front door in center field.
Both those balls by Alonso and that one, which landed onto the grassy hill area out in center in the backdrop, were absolutely crushed. So the batter now is Willie Bloomquist, hitting out of the number 8 spot. Corky had homered at Wrigley Field on the 4th of July, his only other home run this year. He left no doubt as to that ball going out. Taking the call on the red phone down there.
President must have called White House on the phone, Corky.
We can only assume, isn't that the red phone?
Of course, the red phone in the Reds dugout connects to the red phone in the Reds bullpen. And that was probably, I don't know, maybe
one of his buddies out there.
Yeah, maybe Porky Lopez.
Or his good friend Mike Stefanski. Bloomquist pops it foul. Lucroy stays with it. So Bloomquist becomes the second out of the inning on the foul ball to the catcher, but in between the first out of the frame by Francisco and that second out, single to right by Cairo, booming double to center by Alonso, and a bomb of a 2-run homer to center by Corky Miller. The Reds have answered the 3 in the top of this inning with a 3 spot of their own and have regained their 3-run lead. Chris Heisey 0 for 1. Another chance for Lucroy, and he handles it to retire the side. But 3 across the board, highlighted by the homer by Corky Miller. 7-4 Reds. Yes, the excitement begins October the 6th with the Division Series on TBS. The Reds, of course, will be involved in that either beginning on Wednesday the 6th or Thursday the 7th. And, of course, your home for Reds baseball all season long right here. Fox Sports Ohio will be involved. They'll have Jim Day, Jeff Piccaro, Chris Welsh involved in comprehensive coverage, reaction from players and coaches. Jim and Chris will be up in the studios in Cleveland. Jeff will be on the road with the ball club. After every Reds playoff game, turn to the team that has been there from the start. The home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio. Somewhat rainy afternoon, but not all bad now. A 3-run 7-4 Reds lead, and Dusty turns to Nick Massett.
Well, the often used and most used out of the Reds bullpen pitcher and strong arm right-hander from Pinellas Park, Florida. 82 appearances now for Massett. third in the National League in that category behind Pedro Feliciano and Peter Moylan. Feliciano of the Mets, Moylan of the Atlanta Braves.
This was a very good deal for the Reds, wasn't it? As you see, Francisco has stayed in the game at third. The acquiring of Nick Massey.
Well, they traded Ken Griffey Jr. in order to get him from the Chicago White Sox. And at the time they acquired Massey, he was in the minor leagues. He had been in the major leagues a little bit, but mainly a starter in the minor leagues. Had over 120 starts in the minor leagues. And, of course, when the Reds saw him, they were going to give him an opportunity to start, but they really figured out long term that looking at his stuff, that he would be a much better reliever, maybe even down the road a closer. And it was amazing how his fastball went from about 90 to 91 miles an hour up to 94 to 97 miles an hour when they put him in the bullpen. They said, just give us one inning as hard as you can and we'll get you out of there. And that's what he has been doing just about as well as anybody in the league.
He's another one, though, this year that has had a bit of a roller coaster at the beginning of the season. Was not good for him, and people were calling for his head. But to their credit, Dusty and Brian Price hung with him, and he really turned it around, really since about the middle of June or so.
Well, the key for Nick Massey was that he, at that time, was not able to get his curveball over the plate for strikes. He's now throwing it for strikes. He's got two curves, a slow one that'll throw in the 70-mile-an-hour range, 70 to 75, and one that he throws, in the high 80s. And he calls that fast one, his put-him-away curveball. But he's got great arm speed, and he's got 4 pitches, which is unusual for a short reliever.
Those games are underway now. Philadelphia at Atlanta and San Diego at San Francisco. Those games still to help determine what teams will be in and what team will be out in the National League postseason. San Diego gets 2 in the first thus far. Barry Zito has walked in 2 runs in the top of the first at home against the Pods.
Making it awfully interesting. You know what kind of festive atmosphere it must be at AT&T Park this weekend. I mean, they support their Giants anyway, but the Padres this year, sans the Los Angeles Dodgers, are their main rival.
Yeah.
So it used to be the chant in San Francisco is that we hate LA. This year it's we hate San Diego. The Padres are up on them early.
On the appeal, Weeks is out. That's a dozen strikeouts by Reds pitching today. Here's Corey Hart. Philadelphia, meanwhile, is threatening in their game 2 on, 2 out in the first.
That's 23 strikeouts in 2 ball games. Reds pitchers have handed the Milwaukee Brewers.
Hart with a swing and a miss. This may be his last chance to extend his current hitting streak, which is at 16 games. He's had a 20-game streak earlier this year, the longest by a Brewers player. Took him until the 11th inning last night to extend it. Now he finds himself in the hole, 2 strikes. He's fanned 3 times himself here this afternoon. Regular season wrap-up comes here tomorrow in a 1:10 game. Edinson Volquez is slated to go against Randy Wolf. Dusty has intimated that maybe Volquez won't make that start. He'll work that game with Paul Keels. Then you're off to stake your territory in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, after that, of course, we have the postseason tomorrow. We'll have a little bit better idea who the Reds will play, and we'll try to handicap the first series. And as you tune into the first series, wherever it may be, of course, on FSN Ohio, after the ball game, we'll have complete coverage as we have a little postseason postgame show waiting for you. Jeff Coro report from wherever the Reds are playing, and Jim Day and I will be at the FSN studio, the massive structure up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Did you get lucky to go up there, or did Jeff get lucky to go on the road?
No comment.
Okay.
I don't think luck had anything to do with it.
Two out and nobody on. Braun, 1 out of 3, a double, then hit by a pitch, scored a run. Saw Cordero pitch last night. Francisco had a 1-2-3 10th inning. One of those 9 pitchers that were used. Dusty did not say anything about not using Cordero today, so you would figure that if things stay the way they are, he would be the man in the top of the 9th. Nassett 1 out away, sending it that way as far as the Brewers offense is concerned. 3-1. Reds have not trailed today. Let a 4-1 lead slip away, but immediately bounced back with 3 of their own in the bottom of the 7th. A walk to Braun to bring Fielder to the plate. For a team who hadn't walked many coming into today's game lately, 7 walks by the Reds pitching, although 2 of them were intentional. Here's Prince Fielder. He has walked twice today, upping his walk total to 113. A franchise record for the Brewers. Runner took off. They were not holding the runner. And Braun took off, gets the stolen base, his 15th of the year.
I think they're going to give him in the defensive indifference on that one.
Okay.
Always kind of a curious rule, really.
Well, the 3-run lead. Wonder why they wouldn't hold him in the first place, I guess.
Keep the infield back.
With 2 out.
Fielder doesn't run well. You want to knock a ball down, and you still possibly have a play at first base. That run in Ryan Braun really doesn't mean much.
A 93-mile-an-hour fastball and a strike to Fielder. In the dirt, bounces away from Miller, and now the runner at third. Set a franchise record a year ago with 110 walks and then turned around and broke it this year. Nassett falls behind 3-1. He fell behind Braun 3-0 and lost him on a 3-1 pitch. Now falls behind Fielder. And the man who tied the game in the 7th, McGee, waits on deck. Nowhere close to Prince Fielder in terms of the strike zone, and back-to-back walks after back-to-back strikeouts will bring McGee to the plate as the tying run.
He was the tying run the last time he stepped to the plate. That was against Jordan Smith, and a first pitch fastball tied it all up. Brian Price may be going out there just trying to change the energy of the inning a little bit. Boy, it looked like Nick Massett was just breezing. He struck out Weeks. He struck out Hart. In fact, there was a mismatch with both of those Brewer hitters. And he ended up walking Braun. And not even close in that at bat, as you said, Jim Kelch, to the Brewer first baseman.
So after the conference on the mound breaks up, Nick Massett looks confident, ready to work to Casey McGee. 7-4 Reds here in the top of the 8th inning.
What he didn't throw many of in the at-bat to Prince Fielder was breaking balls. And I imagine Casey McGee will see a first pitch breaking ball. I doubt very much they're going to serve him another cookie right down Broadway the way he got back in the 7th.
That was from Jordan Smith. And this is Nick Massett.
Here comes the slider. That was actually the cutter. You know, Nick Massett, you really need the radar gun sometimes to chart these pitchers as to what they throw. Nick Massett's fastball on the gun here at Great American Ballpark, and the one that you were showing you on our Fox box, is somewhere between 92 and 95 miles an hour. His cutter will be 88 to about 90. Now here comes the real fastball, going to try to get it on the thumbs.
Exactly what he did, and now he has McGee set up.
He's got a lot of run on his fastball, so he can start that middle in, and by the time it gets there, it should be in off the plate. Going to drop the hammer on him.
Got him. Good call, Chris. 3 strikeouts in the inning. 2 men left. 7-4 Reds in the middle of the 8th. The game. Nice defensive work by the Reds in the 6th inning. Look at Giannis. Valleca and a good stretch on the receiving end by Alonso. That ended the 6th inning. Kept the Reds lead intact at the time at 4-1, and it's our John Morrell hot dog play of the game. There's your line score. 16 hits pounded out by the Reds today. They lead it 7-4. They'll look at a new pitcher, Mike McClendon, who did appear in the game. In fact, was the winner last night. Giannis batting for the 2nd time. 2-0 with a 3.15 ERA for McClendon. Giannis flied to right his first time. Now he's ahead 3 balls and no strikes. Called up in mid-August from Nashville. Mike McClendon gets a strike in there. 2.44 his ERA down there. Reds have Francisco Cordero throwing in their bullpen. They add anything to the score here, he would come in if he does in a non-save situation. As it is now with a 3-run lead, he would be gunning for his 39th save. Up the middle. That's going to be an infield base hit. Escobar cut it off, but it's a base hit. Good hustle by Giannis.
Well, the Brewers really seem to overplay that shortstop in that 5.5 hole. A lot closer to third base than most teams do, especially against right-hander there, who doesn't always hit the ball down the line. So Giannis gets the benefit of taking it right through the middle. Escobar makes a nice play to run it down, but there's no way you're going to get Giannis.
Chris, I'm sure you guys talked about it last night. You've talked about it before. Mike McClennan and that kind of a quick pitch scenario that he offers up.
He does that with 2 strikes on him. He does it out of the full windup. It's kind of an interesting deal. You know, quick pitching is illegal, which is actually starting your motion, delivering the ball before the batter is ready in the batter's box. I mean, it can be called an illegal pitch by the umpire. But what he does is when he gets 2 strikes on a hitter out of the full windup, he'll do it without really much of a stride at all. He'll just kind of get the ball and go. And if that batter's in the batter's box ready to go, there's nothing wrong with it. He picked up a strikeout last night that way.
Inevitably, you see the hitters turn to the umpire and say something, though, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And really what I was taught as far as how to deliver a quick pitch is that you're holding the ball and you're about to pitch. And as soon as you see the hitter's lips move.
Out at second. Oh, they got him at first as well. Weeks had to double pump out there, jump out of the way of the sliding yawners, but they get the double play, their second of the afternoon.
A very acrobatic turn by the Brewers' second baseman, Ricky Weeks, right here. He gets the feed, and then it looks like his feet get caught up around the bag right there. Instead of pushing off through the inner part of the infield and getting out of the way of the sliding runner, he kind of tags the bag and then jumps up and throws it. You've got to be an athlete to do that.
Just did get Valleca at first. Brewers have turned a pair. The Reds have turned 1 double play in this game. Here's Nix. Popped up his only other time today with 2 men out.
To follow up on that, Jim, I was always taught that as a pitcher, you come to your stretch and you're ready to pitch, and you wait, and then you watch for the hitter's lips to move, because what he's doing at that point is asking the umpire for timeout. And he's already telling you by asking for timeout that his brain is no longer concentrating on the pitch, and that's when you deliver the pitch, from the time between you see his lips move and the umpire actually giving him timeout. And that's a very subtle thing. It won't work very often, but if it works once a game or once every 3 or 4 games, you might be able to pick up an important out.
Interesting tidbit. I've never heard that before. Just foul pass first by Nix. So you watch the batter's lips, and once they start to move to ask for time, then you go ahead and deliver.
Well, because a batter can't get timeout without asking the umpire. Now, some batters will take their hand off the bat and put their hand up in front of the umpire's face in a way to signal him, hey, can I have timeout? But most guys who are afraid that he won't see it will ask verbally, hey, can I have time? And as soon as you see his lips move, there's the quick pitch right there.
Right. Escobar will throw Nix out, and so the Reds, thanks to the double play, 3 batters and out. So this one's set up for the top of the 9th. Going in, 7-4 Reds. Most comprehensive highlights, exclusive interviews with the players and Dusty Baker before anyone else. That's Reds Live, brought to you by King's Honda in the King's Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com. Jim Day standing by. for that exclusive coverage after hopefully Francisco Cordero puts an end to the second game of this 3-game series against the Brewers. Cordero has 38 saves, trying to equal his save total of a year ago when he had 39, although his ERA a year ago to now much different. 3.95 this year, 2.16 a year ago.
Now, earned run averages for short relievers, even when you get in 75 ball games, are not the best indicator of what you've done. It's how many saves you have at the end of the year, how many you've blown along the way. There was a time there that he was he had a bullseye on his back from fans that wanted him out of there as a closer's role. Quite frankly, the Reds have no alternative. And you really need Cordero to step up and be on top of his game in the postseason.
Now the fans will answer with, well, what about, used to plug in Nick Massett,
sure.
Now they're plugging in Aroldis Chapman, but it's not a fantasy league, is it?
No, it's not. And the last thing, remember, the one thing that Dusty Baker brings up first and foremost is you have one more year on the contract with Francisco Cordero. If you take him out of the closer's role here, where do you put him? And you're paying him $12 million a year, and he's proved himself over the course of his career to be a fine closer. So do you lose him, mentally, to the ball club for an entire season by pulling him out now? I don't think that's even an option, and I don't think the Reds have a better option.
Yeah, and Dusty has added to that by saying, if I take him out, put somebody else in, and then that doesn't work out, then you go back to Cordero and say, hey, I was just kidding. We're going to put you back in that role.
Right. And that's really the part of Dusty Baker's managerial dossier that is probably his strength, is his interpersonal relationships with the players, how he handles the clubhouse. Most of the things that people don't see.
On a 3-2 pitch, a hit up the middle by Lorenzo Cain is his 4th hit of the day. Mentioned earlier, he had only 6 hits in his last 53 at-bats coming into today's game, and now gets his 4th this afternoon.
He's on fire today. In fact, had it not been for the interference of a fan in right center field to rob Jay Bruce of that home run, he would have had the defensive play of the game, too.
Here's Lucroy. Reds have turned one double play. That was off the bat of Ricky Weeks in the 6th. They'd love another one right here. Here's a ground ball to short. 1, 2, double play. Reds gunning for their 90th win of the year. If they can get it here. Two men out, nobody on, and a strike called. Strike 1 to Escobar. Last Reds team to win 90 games was the 1999 team that posted 96 victories, but you recall did not get into the postseason. Cordero has Escobar where he wants him now. 2 strikes and nothing. To save this game for Logan Ondrusek, trying to hang a loss on Todd Coffey. Trying to get his 39th save, Francisco Cordero. On a somewhat cool, overcast Saturday afternoon, 28,173. Those that have hung around looking for the W. 39th save for Francisco Cordero. 5-0 for Logan Ondrusik. For the first time since 1999, 90 wins for the Cincinnati Reds as they win it here this afternoon, 7-4.
Now, a lot of us, Jim Couch, on the beginning of spring training were asked, how many wins do you think this ball club is going to have? And anybody who said 90 wins was laughed out of the room. A lot of people thought that this was a good ball club, that they would have more wins and losses this year. I was one of those, but I don't think anybody thought that 90 wins was possible. A division championship, yes. And from an emotional standpoint, that means a lot to this club. They earned it. They've earned their way into the postseason with one game to go, 90 wins on their record so far. A big congratulations by Dusty Baker and everybody in this Reds team. Looking forward to pass tomorrow, but we're looking forward first to the postgame, my man.
7-4 Reds. Back after this.